of another year of international motorsports competition. For 29 years, the greatest drivers in the world have been coming here to challenge the 3.5 miles of racetrack they call Daytona. Manufacturers from all over the world vying for bragging rights for enduring 24 long hours, over half of which will run in the long February night, with only one team surviving. Daytona has once again opened its doors to drivers and fans who will see the sun set and rise before this event concludes. Nighttime racing presents a unique challenge on the tight turns of the infield road course and on the 31-degree banking where speeds will reach over 200 miles an hour. Porsche has won the SunBank 24 17 times in the past, but last year the British Jaguars pulled off the win with an international group of drivers including American Davy Jones. Champions from America, Great Britain, Germany, and other countries are here for another SunBank 24 at Daytona. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Today, live reports from Daytona International Speedway in the SunBank 24 Hours of Daytona. Well, it isn't raining right now. Skies remain overcast here at Daytona. The temperature is 61 degrees. The humidity is 100%. They're calling for a 50% chance of rain, so the possibility of rain isn't out of the question. We have had solid rain for the past 2 days here. It has hampered practice. It has hampered qualifying. Speeds much slower than they would be, of course, on a dry racetrack. And some of the cars have had trouble keeping their cars headed in the right direction. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to Daytona International Speedway and the SunBank 24. I'm joined by David Hobbs, who started in this race 9 times. It's an event that brings together drivers of various ages, experience levels, some teams with a lot of money, some teams with very little money, and it also brings together cars that range in speed from almost 200 miles an hour to a little above 100. And certainly, David, the level of experience is shown in the car that'll sit on the pole today.
Well, that's true. Bob Wallach is on the pole here. He's won this race 3 times, and he's at 47 years old. He's one of the older drivers in the field. And his co-driver, Bernd Schneider, at about 24, just a whip of a lad, is one of the younger drivers in the field. And I wish that just experience could really, really help in this sort of racing, but I'm afraid it's not always the wisest and the oldest and the most experienced or the best prepared teams that win. I'll never forget the Le Mans race in 1964 when Jochen Rindt was driving a Ferrari, and he really wanted to go home very badly any time after about 4 o'clock, i.e. starting time on Saturday afternoon.
Well, you finished.
So he drove the heck out of that car, and of course at about the 12-hour mark they suddenly thought, oh my God, it hasn't broken and we're leading. And then of course they pussyfooted for the next 12 hours and won the race. So I can't say that we can really call any winners here today.
You finished 3rd on 2 different occasions here.
I have indeed, and even one of those was not without its flaws.
The defending race champions of this event, the Jaguar team, suffered a major setback on Thursday. Again, it was on a very wet racetrack. John Nielsen came down the backstretch, headed for the chicane. Look what happened.
Into the chicane and out again into the bank. Saved him from going into Lake Lloyd there. Poor old John Nielsen, I think, had a little touch of brain fade there when he was trying to avoid brake fade. His real purpose was to try and bed in brake pads and discs at this car. This is only about his 3rd lap out. I think he went in there far too hot and backed it into the banking, and of course the car never did make the start.
And of course that car has been withdrawn now from the starting lineup, so Jaguar down to 1 car. More on that. Let's go to one of our 2 pit reporters for the afternoon, Dave Despain.
When the Jaguar crashed, the question became, can that second lone car go the distance all by itself? Davy Jones, the defending champion in this race. There was some question this morning about the second car, an electrical problem in practice. I understand that's fixed now?
Yeah, it wasn't really a worry to the team at all. The car ran fine in warm-up this morning, and I think it was after they got it back to the garage just to do some last-minute over-checking just before the final minutes of the race. They just noticed a little electrical problem. It's nothing major. The crew assured me that it's reinstated the warranty, and it's set to go another 24 hours.
Which is, of course, your task. My question to you, with one car out, it certainly increases the pressure on you. Does it affect the strategy?
Well, I think for the whole Bud Light Castrol Jaguar team, we came here with two well-prepped 24-hour endurance winning cars. And, you know, when you lose one like that, our team, we never really missed a beat. We just carried on and you know, kept the car. We qualified second quickest on the front row, which is good, but it's not really that important for a 24-hour race. But I think the synchronization between Rob Lozelle, Scott Pruitt, and Derek Warwick and myself, we're working very well together. We're all real happy. We're real confident in the car, and the team's ready. We just want to get going.
Thanks. Good luck to you, Davey. A couple of points about the Jaguar. A lot of these teams are going to carry military logos today in honor of the troops serving in the Persian Gulf. This car will carry the colors of the Royal Air Force and a squadron that is flying Jaguar airplanes in the Gulf this weekend. And one other note. Jaguar's been here 3 times. They've won the race twice. On both occasions, it was cool. The year it was hot, they overheated and broke and retired. Many think that the head gasket is the weak link in this car. We have cool weather that way and hot weather that way and a changeable wind in between. In terms of strategy and the weather, the Jaguar people are saying, stay cool.
Thank you, Dave. As we mentioned, Bob Wallach on the pole at a speed of 115.5 miles per hour average. However, he isn't the fastest in the field. With more on that, let's go to our other pit reporter. Here's Marty Reed.
Well, thanks, Bob. Hello again, everybody. You know, the Nissans brought a 3-car contingent here, but they're all the Group C modification cars. That's the ones that run at Le Mans. One of the drivers, of course, defending IMSA Camel GT champion Jeff Brabham. You are under some restrictions here because of Group C cars. You can run only 2,600 liters of fuel. It means you have to stop every 50 to 55 minutes. It takes a minute 40 to do the refueling. You've got some severe limitations here. You've got to run a lot faster.
Yeah, it's depressing, isn't it? When you put them all together like that, it really is a bit of a malime. But you know, we've got a lot of confidence in the Group C cars running at the end of the race, and that's something we haven't managed to do here before. So we feel if we're running strong through the whole 24 hours, we have a chance to win it, and I think the Nissans are up to that task. Now, whether or not we'll be fast enough is something I think is going to be answered in the first 6 hours of the race.
Mathematically, it's figured that you have to run 2 miles an hour faster than everybody else. Can you literally do that for 24 hours?
Well, that's something we're not sure of right now. I mean, you're right. We have to run 2 seconds a lap faster than everybody else just to stay even, and that's going to be very difficult, particularly if it rains. But the idea of this race is to run strong for 24 hours, and you know, we've been the fastest car here the last 2 years and haven't won, so perhaps maybe we'll try this time not having quite the fastest car, but having the most durable.
Well, Jeff mentioned that nasty word rain, and it's starting to drizzle again, Bob.
We have had some very bad weather here the last couple of days, and we could get some rain this afternoon as we're now about 23 minutes away from the start of the SunBank 24 here at Daytona. And our race is being presented today by Jaguar, a blending of art and machine. And by Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. More pre-race activity here at the SunBank 24 in just a moment. Here at Daytona, as 46 cars have lined up on pit road and are ready to take the green flag in about 20 minutes time from right now. It is beginning to rain here at Daytona. The American story, well, it involves a family feud, and for more on that, once again, let's go down to Dave Despain.
Well, it's supposed to be a family feud. In this corner, the Unzers in a Porsche, and over here, the Andrettis in a Porsche. And here are the Andrettis, but where are the Unzers? There are problems with their car. They may or may not start. And so we have Mario and his 2 sons, Michael and Jeff, ready to make history. The first time the family have driven together. And my question is to Mario. You've won it all, the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, the Formula One World Championship, the IndyCar Championship, but never a 24-hour race. You have a chance to do that here today, and perhaps more importantly, you get to race with the 2 boys. Which of those opportunities means the most to you right now?
Well, I think what's at hand means the most. Obviously, we're shooting for a good weekend here, and I just hope we can accomplish that because, again, there are just so many things on the line, and what's behind us, I think, should be a good car, and if it trucks along all day, we have a really very, very good shot at it.
ever the optimist, ever coming to win, and yet there are questions about this car. It was finished late, it was delivered late, it was not practiced nearly as much as they would like, and so to Michael Andretti, who made a lot of news this week with his Formula One story, and we'll have that in our 8 o'clock show, the question is this car, how good is it?
Well, so far it hasn't missed a beat. You know, we've done every practice, and it hasn't missed a beat, as I said. It just hope it keeps going.
Yeah, everybody's hoping that this family will get to do what they came here to do. But the highest hopes, perhaps, are with young Jeff, who's got a great season on tap. And you kick it off here today racing for the family. I got to think for you the goal today is seat time. Get some experience.
Yeah, I'm looking for seat time, and just hopefully we can finish this 24-hour race. And if we're running at the end, I hope that we're leading it.
Now here's the good news. The Andrettis are ready to go, and we understand the Unzers may be too. Let's go back to Marty Reed.
Thanks, Dave, but the Unzers are a team looking for a car right now. Al Jr., you're first in, but the car is still back in the paddock. What's wrong?
Well, we put a new transmission in last night and ran this morning. My dad ran the car, and the oil pump didn't work in the transmission. We didn't realize that until it got back and they were checking it over. So right now they're in the process of changing it. It's going back together, and hopefully we're going to make the start.
Obviously, Bobby, we won't say you're the oldest in the race, but the most experienced in the race. This has got to be a real treat having the whole family together.
Having the whole family together is the ticket to the whole thing, and we really thank Yakendauer for that. We're all late, and we've got many problems with the car, but a lot of that's because of the Mideast War, and we're certainly glad they're having that part. But unfortunately, we're having a few car problems, and we got our ace hitter here ready to go if the car shows up.
Well, let's put it this way. They may be starting from pit lane and the pressure will be on, but I guarantee you the right foot will be pushed all the way down. Let's go back upstairs to Bob and David.
Thank you, Marty. Al Jr. winner here in 86 and 87, and Al Sr. winning in 1985. Of course, all of our thoughts here at this race as we are about to begin it are with our troops in the Persian Gulf, and we certainly join with everyone around the world in wishing them good luck. Hurry back home. We'll be right back in just a moment. Back at Daytona International Speedway, moments before the start of the SunBank 24 Hours, a stellar group of international cars and drivers on hand here, 46 in all, on pit road, being led to the green flag this afternoon in about 15 minutes by the Yost Porsche, which will be started by Bob Wallach. He won the pole at over 115 miles an hour. And we talked about the varying levels of experience among the field. Certainly, when you talk about experience, Derek Bell has 8 endurance wins. So does Jackie X. Hurley Haywood, who is also in the field today, has 8 endurance championships. The late Al Holbert was 7, and Bob Wallach is on the list at 4. This includes the Daytona 24 Hours, the Le Mans 24 Hours, and the 12 Hours of Sebring. There is the car that Hurley Haywood will be joining in the drive here this afternoon at the 24 Hours of Daytona. Now, the number 48 car is the Camel Lights pole position winner. And this car, David, is powered by an Acura engine. And there are a lot of people, as we get set for the green flag, that think this thing might be able to win the entire event if the GTP cars have trouble.
Well, as you say, it's a Honda Acura engine in a Spice chassis. The Spice chassis has always showed itself to be particularly good. And, of course, we've seen from Honda in Formula One just how reliable their engines are. And he's a cool 7 seconds faster than the next car in the class. Now, of course, all that practice and qualifying, as we know, was done in the rain, and that may have had something to do with it. But this car could be a very strong contender in this race, especially if some of our faster GTP cars should fall by the wayside. And the way things are going, for instance, with the IMSA car already, that's not beyond the realms of possibility.
Here is the GTO pole sitter, Brian Redman, among those who will be driving in this car. It will be started by Brian. Bryce Cobb also among the drivers in this car, and we'll go down to Dave Despain with more on this story. Dave?
The car number 63 Mazda will sit on the pole for the class. This is the sedans with engines over 3 liters, and the engine is probably the key to that car. It is the proven RX-7 4-rotor rotary type engine. The car has big brakes and great radial tires, and it is in very good shape as it is significantly faster than the competition. But there is competition. The Mustangs of Jack Roush lurk back there, a couple of positions further back on the grid and a couple of seconds slower per lap. But Roush's cars have won 7 straight. event victories in their class here at Daytona. So for these guys, it is an upset that they're hoping to pull off in one sense here today, although on the watch, they are the favorite. And here is the key factor for them. They want to win this class and move on to GTP.
The national anthem underway here at Daytona.
Many other years, the national anthem sort of taken for granted, but Bob Leisinger, your team also running one of those decals for none of the troops?
We're carrying the 442nd out of Bellefonte, Pennsylvania with us. Our spirits are really with them.
Yeah, it does do a lot for everybody. I think means a lot more right now with what's going on there. But you are in a battle here with the Mazdas. Your two Nissan 240 SXs are sitting first and third on the grid, but only a half second separates you from the number 2 Roger Mandeville Mazda.
It will be a very tight race. What we have to do is for the first 23.5 hours really just play our cards right and have good pit work. The Toyo Nissan is all set to go. I think we're going to be in good shape, but the Mazda Mandeville group is really a good group.
Well, we're going to let you get busy because I know the race is about ready to start here at the SunBank 24. Stay with us. We'll be back as we'll set the starting grids for you here at the SunBank 24 at Daytona.
Speedway for the SunBank 24 Hours of Daytona, less than 10 minutes away from the green flag. We mentioned how there was a tremendous separation between the fastest and the slowest in the field. It is 1 minute and 12 seconds, and that translates to a speed of 45 miles an hour between the fastest and the slowest qualifiers. David Hobbs, take us around Daytona International Speedway, the road course that will be used.
Well, crossing the start-finish line in the Jaguar or any of these top GTP cars at about 200 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes into turn 1 and down to second. Short shift almost immediately up to third, this little right, left and flick as you go through that first sort of a chicane thing. Down on this little bit of a straight here up into third. Down to second again for the International Horseshoe, which is a 180-degree bend. Try and keep a tight apex there. Accelerate fast up here, second, third, and fourth. Now he's coming to a very, very quick left-hand flick. Flicks through there at about 145. Whoop, there he goes. Hard on the brakes again. Back down to second for the Horseshoe at the top, under the shadow of the bankings at turns 1 and 2 on the NASCAR circuit. Second gear there, straight up to third, and then into fourth on that very short, sharp, straight onto the banking turn. This again, he goes into second, climbs out onto the banking, gets very, very, very close to the wall. Here he goes through there, up to the wall there by the 76 ball, and stays in third, fourth, and fifth. Round the banking there, stays high with the GTP car. Hopefully all the slower cars are on a lower, slower line. There we see one in front of him, goes over the crossing here. A lot of dirt and dust at the beginning of the race because that's where all the caravan and campers come in. Up to about 175 on this back straight. Hard on the brakes. Down to third gear for the chicane. A left-right flick in. That's where we saw poor old Nielsen flick out. Stays in third. And third, the first part of this flick, left, throws you right up to the wall at turn 3 on the NASCAR circuit. Up to fifth gear and hard on it all the way back to the start-finish line, which is the fastest part here. And again, as I say, about 200 miles an hour as they cross that start-finish line. But of course, unlike the NASCAR cars, these guys have got to go down to second gear for turn 1 very shortly. There we see the view from the driver's seat. Crosses the line.
And here is the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole in the Porsche 962C, number 6, Bob Wallach. His co-drivers Barilla, Schneider, and Segala. Outside of that front row will be Davy Jones in the Jaguar. The car is number 2. His co-drivers Scott Pruitt, Derek Warwick, and Raul Boycel. Row number 2 inside. The 500 winner from last year, Ari Lyondike, along with Julian Bailey and Derek Daly in one of the Nissans. Outside row number 2, another Nissan. It'll be started by Bob Earl, his co-drivers, defending GTP champion Jeff Brabham and Chip Robinson. Going to row number 3 on the inside, the third Nissan. Julian Bailey will start it. Steve Millen and Jeremy Dale will assist. That's the number 84 car. And then on the outside of the third row will be the Andretti family, the number 00 Porsche 962, with Michael getting the starting call. Going to row number 4 on the inside, another 962C. This is the team car to the pole sitter, number 7. Frank Chelensky will start it along with John Winter, Henri Pescarolo, and Hurley Haywood, the co-drivers. Outside of the fourth row, Juan Manuel Fangio II, along with Willie T. Ribbs and Andy Wallace in one of the Toyota Eagles, number 99. Inside of row number 5 will be the Al Unser Jr. car, along with his dad and Robbie and Bobby Unser. The number is 0 on the 962C. Outside of row number 5 will be James Weaver in the Dyson Porsche, car number 16. His co-drivers are Rob Dyson, John Paul Jr., and Tiff Nadell. Inside row number 6, the other Toyota Eagle of the race, number 98. It'll be started by Rocky Moran with P.J. Jones and Mark Dismore assisting. And outside of row number 6 will be John Hotchkiss, along with James Adam and Chris Cord. That's the number 10 Porsche 962. As we said, 46 cars in the rest of the starting lineup. You can see there Derek Bell in the Gunner 966 Porsche. That is an open cockpit car, along with a car that will be shared by the winner of the Daytona 500, Derek Cope, in the number 4 machine. The 8th row has Brockman in car number 5, along with McAdam and Phillip, Johnson, Peterson, and Cameron in number 48. Going to row number 9, it's Cobb, Redmond, and Osteen, Halsmer, Morton, and Fish. The 10th row has Nolan, Schramm, and Cunningham, along with Morgan, Hessert, and Jim Pace. Going to row number 11, one of the GTO cars, Schrader, Jones, and Fergus, along with Gordon, Martin, and Dallenbach Jr. The 12th row, Johnson, Robertson, Shelton, and Hines, along with Lagasse, Smith, Morrison, and Bundy in a Corvette. The 13th row, another Corvette, Heinrichs, Knowles, Hayner, and Pilgrim, with Stevens, Jaeger, Bennett, and Grunna also in the 13th row. Row 14, McDill, and Burt, along with Dow, Hepworth, Tincotti, and Davis. The 15th row, Leitzinger, Lauren, Kurtz, and Leitzinger, along with Jelinek, Grooms, and Greenfield, the defending champions of the light division. The 16th row, Mandeville, Marsh, and Johnson, with Shaheen, Coe, Bobeda, and Jacobson. The 17th row, Leitzinger, Lauren, Kurtz, and Leitzinger. Also Puello, Holmes, Hill, and Bockstrom. The 18th row, Espinosa, Wilson, Solano, and Morajan, with Greer, Bacon, Urea, and Mace on the outside of row number 18. The 19th row, Gooding, Northam, Annis, and Panaggio, along with Hoyt, Reese, and Gagliardo. The 20th row, Brosnanaham, Berger, and McAlso, along with Nickel, Brayton, and Tennyson. And the rest of the starting lineup, as we get set, the cars are on the racetrack. We're getting set for the start of the SunBank 24. We'll have it in just a moment. Back at Daytona, where the cars are on their warm-up lap prior to the start of the SunBank 24 Hours of Daytona. Now let's go down to Marty Reed for a quick report on pit road.
Well, the rain is starting to play a factor already. It's getting very slick just along here in pit lane, let alone what's happening out there. And we know of only one car that's managed to go out on rain tires. Everybody else, of course, is starting to gear up, so we could see some very quick early pit stops if the rain keeps falling.
It's unbelievable the weather problems that we have had here. We woke up to relative sunshine today, and we heard that there was a 50% chance of rain. We thought, well, we're going to get through this day without any rain, but just as we're about to take the green flag, the rain comes down again, David.
I tell you, my heart's in my mouth, and I'm just sitting up here in the booth. I just can't bear it when weather's like this. It is really the most disturbing thing of all. You go out there, it's dry here on the pit road. On the back straight, it's raining quite hard. The slicks obviously won't be up to it.
Here comes the green flag. The SunBank 24 is on at Daytona International Speedway.
Now then, I hope a lot of these guys are going to be extremely careful as they go into the infield, because it is slick.
Dyson Porsche drifting high there in the first turn, saving it, coming through okay. Cars snaking their way through that corner number 1, heading down the straightaway into the International Horseshoe.
The Andretti car already up there looking for that to lead. Tries one side of Bob Wallach, tries the other. Into that fast left-hand flick I was telling you about 140 miles an hour. Jump all over the brakes here.
There's the Andretti car trying to gain the advantage here on the outside of Bob Wallach. That third car there is the Jaguar. So a three-car battle here in the very early stages.
Wallach there getting a bit squirrely coming out of that corner.
Oh, and a spin. One of the Nissans is off. One of the Nissans is off. Believe it to be the number 84 car, and that would be the one that was started by Julian Bailey. And Andretti has the lead.
Now we're coming to where we know it's wet at the moment.
Another
90 car spun there.
That's the 90 car. Jim Stevens started that car. He, along with the 84, sit sideways on the racetrack as they wait for the traffic to clear so that they can get the car headed in the right direction. Boy, a tough break for both of those cars.
Well, it is pretty disheartening, obviously, that sort of thing, but you've got to remember that this is a 24-hour race, and you can afford to have quite a few little setbacks, as long as they are just little setbacks like that. The sort of setback that really puts you off is when you've got to change the gearbox or something really major. But they should be able to win a 24-hour race. They'll be back on the lead lap. I mean, they'll be back with the leaders in no time in that car.
Meanwhile, here comes the leaders down through the tri-oval. Second and third battle for position. Wallach to the inside and Jones to the outside. Porsche against Jaguar here as they set the cars down into turn number 1 again, with Wallach hanging on to second position. Andretti leads, then Wallach, then the number 2 car.
And then the Nissan, of course, in third spot. Now, we heard Jeff Brabham say before this race started, really, these guys in the Nissans, that's the car number 1, number 83 and number 84, they're supposed to be averaging at least 2 seconds a lap more than everybody else to make up the time they're going to lose in the pits with their longer pit stops and more of them. Well, so far, not so good. Obviously, by now, he should have at least a 3-second lead, and as we can see, he has not.
That is the number 83 car, started by Bob Earl. One of the 3 Nissans in the race. Remember, they're handicapped severely during their pit stops because of the amount of fuel that they can get into the car and the length of time that it will take to put the fuel in. They're only allowed 1 liter a second, so it's going to take about 100 seconds for them to get fuel in that car. Andretti continues to lead the best battle on the racetrack for that second position between Wallach and the number 2 Jaguar. And our in-car cameras, 2 of them today, one of them being carried by Davy Jones of the Jaguars. They're down the backstretch, ready to break for that chicane.
Into the chicane, little arrow there. They've got curves this year at the apexes in the chicane. This is the first year they've had those. Normally, there's a big sand hole which throws up dirt and sand as the race progresses and makes it very difficult. Those curves will be far, far better for the drivers, I feel.
With the chicane, they're at about 200 miles an hour, maybe a little over. Without that chicane, they would be well over 200 as Wallach wants the lead. He battles with Andretti coming off corner number 4, and he grabs the lead as they cross the line. So Bob Wallach, the pole sitter, in one of the Yost Porsche 962Cs, has grabbed the lead again from the Andretti car. We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the SunBank 24 from Daytona. Wallach, Andretti, Jones, Earl, and Bailey at the moment. Here the top 10. Bob Wallach in the lead. Michael Andretti running second, and Davy Jones the Jaguar. Lyondike and Bob Earl in Nissan. 6 through 10, Rob Dyson, then Alan Zer Jr., Greg Jelinski, Juan Manuel Fangio II, and Brian Bonner. Those are the top 10 at the moment, and the faster cars are beginning to lap the slower cars already. There are the top 3. On the left, that's Wallach. In the middle, Andretti and Davy Jones in the Jaguars. They're once again through turn number 2 and down the flat backstretch. Now braking once again for the chicane.
Davy Jones was much closer to Andretti than that before. Here's the GTO leader here, which is about to pass. That looks like the Adams 962 that he's having a dice with there.
That's the light leader, the 48 car, right ahead of him. And we are riding with Wally Dallenbach Jr., driving one of the Jack Roush cars, number 15, carrying our second in-car camera. Here's a pass for second position. It is Davy Jones grabbing second from Michael Andretti. Jones takes the Jaguar to second, dropping the Porsche 962C of Michael Andretti back to third spot. And now Davy moving quickly on the leader, Bob Wallach.
As you can see, too, getting caught up already in lots and lots of heavy traffic. As you said earlier on, Bob, you know, a 45 miles an hour difference between the pole and the slowest car in this field. In fact, IMSA did relax the rules slightly to let those slower cars run, or the slowest of the cars run. And of course, this is a problem that these guys are going to have for 24 hours, and this is the worst race for that. This is much worse than Le Mans, where all the cars are of a similar type, and of course the race course itself is 8.5 miles as opposed to 3.5, so you don't get this tremendous traffic problem which they do here.
And another factor is that Le Mans has what, 5, 6, 6.5 hours of darkness. Here, over half the race, over 12 hours, is run in total darkness.
That's exactly right, and the only thing they're being spared today is because of this most un-Floridian type weather. Normally, at around about this time, the sun behind the banking that we're on now is straight in the driver's eyes for about the last hour and a half, and so you go from absolute core blimey to stone that grows, because it goes from extremely light to extremely dark very quickly. Wallach coming into the chicane, another slow car in front of him. That's one of the Morrison Corvettes, I believe. They're an interesting car. They are absolutely pretty well strictly road cars. They've been modified very slightly. The Jaguar of Davy Jones sniffing around here, trying to get the lead as they come around.
Post 3 and 4. These 3 cars have been running
Very close together since the drop of the green flag. All have led at one point or another. Michael Andretti looking to the inside of Davy Jones in third there, but he sees slower traffic ahead on the inside lane, so he backs off and falls in line.
And of course, hoping that the slower traffic will stay on the inside lane, but there's no guarantees in this year racing, I can tell you that.
Once again, inside the Davy Jones Jaguar as he pursues the leader, Bob. Well, now, does Jones want to lead at this point? Does he want to see what the car can do?
Well, you're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea in this sort of racing. If you lead for the first 20 laps, but then you drop out, no one knows. But on the other hand, it is nice to at least get some pictures of your car in the lead. And so for the sponsors like Bud or for Jaguar themselves, obviously, it is important that the car leads some of the race. All this just hanging in there and finishing at whatever cost doesn't really do much for people. So they do like to lead at least some of the race.
Jaguar team very confident when we visited their shops in Valparaiso, Indiana, a little over a week ago, that they were going to repeat here, but they were certainly disappointed when they had the crash earlier. Now, here's one of the GTO cars and a Camel Light. That's the leader of the Camel Light division and the leader of GTO. That's number 48, Parker Johnstone, in the cockpit, and the number 15 car, which is being driven by Wally Dallenbach Jr.
This is the Acura engine car. Clearly the class of the field in qualifying.
He was some 7 seconds faster than the next Camel Light. Ooh, running off course there just a little bit, getting the tires up on the bumps.
And he's running in 16th position, which is pretty respectable for a Camel Light, through that fast left-hand flick. And behind him is Wally Dallenbach in the bigger engine Ford Mustang, but of course a real muscle car in every sense of the word, and quite a chore to drive around here for 24 hours.
Parker Johnstone in the number 48 Acura powered Spice chassis, and here comes the GTO leader. That is the 15 car of Wally Dallenbach Jr., one of the cars from the Jack Roush stable, who of course will have a effort here at Daytona during the NASCAR portion of Speed Weeks coming up. We're riding with him in the banking of turns 1 and 2.
There you see his windscreen wiper starting to flap there as the pressure builds up on the screen, and that gives you an idea of just how effective or ineffective these wipers are when it rains here. And there's a very, very good chance that these guys are going to have a lot of rain. Particularly unpleasant at night, because you can't see the jolly stuff coming. Pit crew can sort of tell you over the radio, by the way, it's raining, you know, and at this time you're parked in the wall saying, yes, I know it's raining, thanks.
Parker Johnstone, the lights leader at the moment. Back up front, it is still the GTP Porsche 962C driven by Bob Wallach, who is leading, but the Michael Andretti Porsche 962C is right there in second position, as Davy Jones in the Jaguar has fallen back just a little bit in third position.
Wallach down to third into that chicane, bump. Big, pretty bumpy bit of road to chicane.
Number 84 car beginning to work itself up through traffic. Let's go for a report to Dave Despain.
A lot of talk about the Nissan strategy. The big question, with the fueling restriction in the pit, the long pit stops, can they run a couple seconds a lap faster than the rest of the field? And so we just put the question to Bob Sproul, crew chief on the 84 car, and he said, sure, we can do that. And I said, well, where's the evidence? Your cars are not at the front of the field, and they need to be. And he said, well, the evidence is car number 84. His point being that Julian did spin that car. Julian Bailey got it around sideways, stopped it. He now claims, Sproul now claims, that car is 3 seconds a lap faster than anybody else on the racetrack. I'm not sure I'm buying it, but it's certainly evidence of the optimism that Nissan feels in coming here and trying to do, if not the impossible, certainly the very difficult, and that is to run a couple seconds a lap quicker than anybody else for 24 hours.
Dave, the car is running very well at the moment. It is back up to 10th position, so he is definitely moving up through the traffic very, very quickly. The battle for the lead once again between Wallach and Michael Andretti.
True grit from a true Brit. He likes a bit of a challenge at our duels.
And Bob Wallach criticized earlier in the weekend for being too old to run in these 24-hour races, and he is out to prove everybody wrong. There is the 84 car, and he is chasing down the leaders. That's the number one car.
The 84 car's on the infield at the moment. He's absolutely streaking along too. He's looking very effective. Here's our leaders again. Bob Wallach, Michael Andretti, and Davy Jones. Davy Jones deciding, I think, to just settle into a nice rhythm.
That's Ari Leyendijk in the number 1 car, running in 4th position. The top Nissan at the moment. Get your pen and pencil ready. We'll give you the IMSA lineup in the races that we will be televising this year when we come back to more live coverage of the SunBank 24. Having passed Bob Wallach, IMSA schedule that we promised you, the 1991 events on the IMSA schedule. West Palm Beach coming up on the 3rd, Sebring on the 16th on ESPN, then Miami, Brazelton, Georgia, Topeka, Kansas, and Lime Rock, Connecticut. That's an ESPN race on the 27th of May. Lexington, Ohio is next, then New Orleans, Watkins Glen on ESPN, Monterey, California, Portland, Oregon, and the Elkhart Lake race also is on ESPN. Del Mar, California will once again close the 1991 IMSA GT schedule. Look at this great, look, the Nissan with Ari Leyendijk in the cockpit challenges the leader Wallach. They go in there side by side, and Wallach comes, well, yeah, Wallach still has the advantage, but boy, that Nissan has come on strong and is indeed showing that they are the fastest cars on the racetrack.
The Nissan there popping its way past both Davy Jones in the Jaguar and the Andretti in the black car there, the Haviland car, and Bob Wallach, of course, squeaking back into the lead again. Whoa, the Andretti Michael there up on the...
The information we had was the number 1 car, driven by Leyendijk, that is now second, would serve as the Rabbit car and would maybe only run about 3 hours, then they would retire it and concentrate on the other 2. And certainly it is going to the front at the moment. It's in second position behind Bob Wallach, Ari Leyendijk in the Nissan. Here comes Michael Andretti moving to the inside of Leyendijk, and Leyendijk goes back to third.
Leyendijk, they nudged there. Bad place to go around the outside of somebody. Davy Jones has got the perfect bird's eye view of what's going on right behind that Nissan. It'll be interesting to see if the Nissan pulls away here, which in fact it does. As they go around the banking, it just gives you some idea of the power that Nissan's got. Pretty awesome, of course. They can run a lot of boost and they can run a lot of horsepower, but they just have to be very careful of their fuel consumption.
They've only been running 17 minutes and they're bumping already out there.
Be a bit careful here. Julian Bailey in the third of the Nissans is 40 seconds behind this lead group, which just shows how costly that spin was, because he's turning in some good laps. He's doing 1:42 compared to our pole position time of 1:50. Remember, of course, pole was in the wet. Andretti getting in there. Ooh, as they come into this traffic, this is where you're going to be so careful at night.
Look at Leyendijk. He'll look to the inside. Had a notion to go 3 wide down there, but decided against it. And now it's Davy Jones pulling up on the outside of him and taking over third position. So these cars are putting on a tremendous battle here in the early going.
They don't seem to be taking much caution with some of that slower traffic. Certainly not as much caution as yours truly would be taking. That's for dead sure.
Again, it's Bob Wallach there in the number 6 car. That's the leader. The black and yellow car driven by Michael Andretti is second. Right behind him comes Davy Jones in the Jaguar. And then it's the Nissan driven by Ari Leyendijk. As we go inside the car, there momentarily with Davy Jones. Here's Andretti passing the 48 car. That is the Camel Lights leader of Parker Johnstone. So again, it shows you the differential in speed. A GTP car lapping.
Whoa, and he didn't see that Nissan coming at all. Parker Johnstone whipped back to the right-hand side of the road there to take a line for this left-hander and really carved in front of that Nissan. Could have had him there.
And so things settle down here just a little bit as they get a little bit strung out here. The GTU leader, meanwhile, would be the number 38 car, driven by Roger Mandeville. He started 31st on the grid and is the GTU leader at the moment. Those for engines under 3 liters. And you can see this differential in speed here. Look at Wallach go around him.
I must confess that the GTU guys do have my credit because they have to put up with an awful lot. They have to really, they're going fast enough to get hurt when they run into things, but they also have got to keep out of the way of those really fast guys. There we see Mario looking at his son,
who is in second position at the moment. Michael is second to Bob Wallach. We'll be right back. Bob Jenkins, David Hobb, Dave Despains, and Marty Reed with you at Daytona International Speedway for live coverage of the SunBank 24. We're going to conclude our coverage in about 9 minutes. We'll be back on the air tonight, and then we'll have the finish of the race tomorrow. Ooh, still some tremendous dueling going on out there among the GTP leaders.
Stone Crow, did you see that? The way he squeezed between himself and Michael and the wall there. Very brave move.
Ari Leyendijk in the Nissan moves into second position behind Wallach, but Michael Andretti will battle with Ari as they come out of that corner there on the infield road course. A couple of IndyCar drivers.
I was just going to say, because these two guys really know each other's styles and their habits, because they duke it out all through the year in the IndyCar series.
Now let's take a look at this again. Here they come through the tri-oval, and this is the point where they've really got to get off the accelerator and brake, and look what happens to Ari.
Now, you couldn't say there that Michael did not move up at least one lane. So it's all there on video, Sunshine.
So we have Ari Leyendijk now losing second position to Michael Andretti as Andretti passes on the high side, but no, here comes Leyendijk right back on the inside.
Obviously, if the Group C car, the Nissan engine car, has got to do what it's got to do, you would expect it in a situation like that to be easily able to out-accelerate the other the 962 of Andretti, because if he wants to be 2 seconds a lap quicker, obviously it's got to be quicker, and that's the sort of place where it would show on acceleration up to the banking.
Ari Leyendijk, of course, the winner of the Indianapolis 500 and the winner of the Daytona 500 a year ago here at the Speedway, is also in this event, driving a GTP car for the first time. Ari Leyendijk takes the lead. Look at him maneuver through traffic. Oh, my gosh.
He was threading his way through literally threading his way. You've got to put a lot of trust in those other drivers to pull stunts like that. Hard to do that for 24 hours, and extremely hard to do that when it's raining and you can't see very well.
Yeah, that does bring up another subject. We talked about how much of this race is run in the darkness, and when we add the possibility of rain to that, you've got some real problems that are going to set in about 6 or 6:30 tonight and go until about that time tomorrow morning.
Michael going well wide there. There's nothing over there, but it could be that the car, you know, these guys didn't have much chance to really set these cars up for a dry race because it rained all the time they were here. And the Jochen Dauer cars, which both the youngsters are driving, and of course the Andrettis are driving the black car there, they had never turned a wheel until they arrived here, so they've had no chance to set the chassis at all. And so they have no idea really how this car is going to handle in the dry, and it looks like the car's understeering a bit from some of the lines that he's taking.
The Dauer Porsches, driven by the Andrettis and the Ensers, were late arriving here in the United States. Travel problems from Germany, so that's the reason they didn't get here and get in a lot of testing before they came here, and then were faced with a lot of rain. And here's another good battle. That's the Porsche. The 16 car is Rob Dyson's Porsche, and that is in 6th position at the moment, and the 0 car is the Unser Porsche. Here comes the number 16 car.
Ooh, sliding down to the GTO cars there, because they're big for the GTP cars to run into those GTO cars. You're going to come off worse because they're much lighter and more fragilely built car than the GTO, so you have to be a bit careful, those big guys.
That's James Weaver driving the Rob Dyson number 16 Porsche in 6th position. There are the first 4 cars. A great early few laps of the SunBank 24 at Daytona. We're live here on ESPN with coverage this afternoon. We'll be back tonight with more. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to the SunBank 24, being brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when. 14 laps have been completed. Let's get a report on pit road. Dave Despain.
Computer technology plays a huge role here at Daytona. Here in the Jaguar pits, this is simple tech. This is a printout, a readout, if you will, of the standings in the race, the Nissan, the Porsches, and here the Jaguar 4th. Here's the key number, 1:44 seconds. Now, this is the kind of stuff that we can show you. Covering Daytona is a little like covering the Gulf War. The banks of computers here. Over here, they calculate strategy with fuel and so forth. Across the way, the stuff we can't show you. Real-time telemetry. Vital systems on the car, monitored electronically, and that information transferred from the car, which you're watching now, back to computer monitors in the pits and reflected in real-time readouts. That's the technology that is very, very secret, and it is on several of the cars here. But the key point for bringing this up is the lap time that we're looking at, 1:44 seconds. That is 3 seconds under the, 3 seconds over the planned strategic lap time for Jaguar. They want to run 1:41 to win this race. They're running 1:44. So yes, they're mixing it up, but on a slightly slick racetrack, they're running much slower than they'd like to be to win the race.
And so they have an uphill climb in order to win this event. But at the moment, the Nissan is the leader of the GTP division. As far as the Camel Lights are concerned, the leader there is Parker Johnstone in number 48, then John Grooms, Jim Pace, Tommy Johnson, and Mike Dow. The first 5 in Camel Lights. Now, GTO being led by the Roush Mustang of Wally Dallevac Jr., then Max Jones in the team car. John Morton is next in the Mazda, then Brian Redmond in the Mazda, and the number 70 car driven by Pete Cunningham. Moving to the GTU division is Roger Mandeville in the Mazda RX-7 leading, followed by Bob Leitzinger, Chuck Kurtz, Chris Kraft, and Dick Greer. So that sums up the classes as we have them right now. Of course, the GTPs being led by Ari Lyondike, car number 1, the Nissan. Second position belongs to Wallach. Then comes Michael Andretti, Davy Jones, and the number 83 Nissan is running in 5th position. And the first 3 cars still pretty much together on the racetrack, although the best battle at the moment is for second, Wallach and Andretti.
There we see them coming into this very sharp corner, and Andretti goes underneath Bob Wallach, second gear, short shifts up to 3rd along this little straight, up to 4th. Then hard on the brakes and back to 2nd. The number 1 car just leading there, going around one of the Camel Lights. Second gear again here, just for a short period, up to 3rd here. Hang on to 3rd as they go right up by the wall there. Michael up to the wall, Bob Wallach to the wall, and then settle in for this long grind around turns 2 and 3 on the NASCAR circuit, up into 4th and 5th. Up to about 180 miles an hour down this back straight before they have to negotiate this very bumpy chicane.
23.5 hours left to go in the SunBank 24. We're very glad to have brought you the first half hour of competition along with a half hour of pre-race activity. Super bouts coming up. Duran against Leonard. Here are the current standings. It's Lyondike, Michael Andretti, Bob Wallach, Davy Jones, and Bob Earl. And again, a reminder, we'll be back on the air at 8 o'clock tonight with more live coverage for an hour. And then tomorrow afternoon, join us at 3 o'clock Eastern time in the afternoon for the last half hour of the event and then a half hour of post-race activity. Once again, we're showing you the second place car there on the right, Bob Wallach battling with Michael Andretti for second position as Ari Lyondike leads the SunBank 24 at the moment in the Nissan. Once again, we invite you to stay tuned for the Super Bouts. Duran and Leonard. For Dave Despain, Marty Reed. SunBank 24 at Daytona, now bathed in total darkness. Let's take a look at the current standings. The leader, Julian Bailey in one of the Nissans, and Chip Robinson in the other Nissan running in second position. Derek Warwick in the Jaguar is running in third spot. Tiff Nadell in a Porsche 962C is in fourth, and another Porsche 962 driven by Paulo Barilla running in fifth position. Those are the standings among the GTPs. Now the Camel Lights. Bob Lesnett in car 48 is leading. Charles Morgan running second. Then Peter Greenfield, Mike Dow, and Tommy Johnson. Taking a look at the GTO standings at the moment. The leader, Wally Dallenbach, and Max Jones running second in the Jack Roush cars. Mazda, driven by Price Cobb, is third. Then Tommy Grunna in number 90 and Scott Lagasse in the Corvette number 92. And finally, in the GTU division, Peter Urea is leading in car 82. Miguel Morajan is second. David Loring, Brad Hoyt, and Jay Kohler round out the top 5 in the GTU standings. You are looking live at a pit stop that is going on right now in the Nissan pits. And David, it appears as if the Nissans are doing exactly what they have to do, and that is, despite these long pit stops, they're able to come back and take the lead. David Hobbs with me here in the booth.
But first of all, their strategy did not appear to be working, because every time they stop, you know, with their restricted refueling process, it takes them nearly a lap, even in this wet weather condition, to refuel. But they have in fact persevered, and now they're running in first and second spot with the Jaguar with Derek White behind the wheel, now in third. So their strategy does appear to be working extremely well.
But we have the great equalizer out there, and that is rain.
The great equalizer. I'm glad it's got me in the booth, I tell you that. Because when I first arrived here at the Speedway on Thursday, I really felt bad about not driving this race, because a lot of my, real peers are driving out there. But I tell you what, this evening, I'm jolly glad I'm in here.
We have had heavy rain since about 5 o'clock today. We had a downpour that created some problems we'll show you in just a moment. And it continues to be pretty heavy out there right now, and a lot of fog besides that.
It's absolutely grim. These cars are laying tremendous rooster tails behind them. They're still going a fair old lick out there. In fact, things are going swimmingly for the Nissan team, literally. But it is very, very bad conditions, and the spray is quite appalling, and I'm really glad that I'm in here tonight, because the drivers will all be wet, the cars get wet inside, they mist up the windscreen. There's no way you can keep the windscreen clear, and of course the spray is just so bad, especially at night. I mean, they've got a long night, as we stressed before, a very long night.
Well, the 83 car that you saw in the pits has gone a lap down now, so we'll continue to watch that situation. Let's take a look now at the highlights. The race started at about 3:30 this afternoon. On the pole was Bob Wallach, and he took the early lead as the cars went into turn number 1. The Jaguar, then driven by Davy Jones, fell into second position, with Mario Andretti, make that Michael Andretti, running in third position there, making a real battle of it in the first corner. Early, Julian Bailey off the course in one of the Nissans, and that created some problems behind him as another car, one of the GTO machines, the number 90 car, Jim Stevens, also spun this on the very first lap of the event. The man of the hour at that time was Arie Luyendyk. Look at him slice through traffic in the Nissan.
As you can see, it's still dry at this stage, but it was to get wetter.
But he brought the car in and retired it not too long after.
Difficult because the Nissan is quite a bit more powerful than the other cars, but the problem I had, I thought that we had another warm-up lap to go, so when I started the race I was way back in the field, so I had to catch up, but it was a lot of fun while I was out there.
The Andretti Porsche 962C into the pits for a long time. They took the engine cover off, trying to correct an electrical and an ignition problem, changed the spark plugs on the car, but it was in the pits for a very, very long period of time. That is the dour Porsche 962 driven by the Andrettis. Here's the heavy rain, about 10 minutes to 5, and watch as Calvin Fish in the Mazda comes off of corner number 4, makes heavy contact with the outside wall, then spins down through the tri-oval. This created all kinds of problems, but fortunately Calvin Fish was uninjured in that incident. As a matter of fact, we talked with him just a few minutes later.
Difference a year can make from defending GTO champion to becoming the first major victim of the rain. What happened out there?
Well, obviously just started to rain on half the circuit, and I came out the chicane, ran NASCAR 3 and 4, and it slowed down considerably, but as I came off the banking, I just swapped ends. I think, probably thinking about it now, the water probably drains down to that area, and I just didn't allow enough. Just went too quick.
You're all right, though?
I'm fine. It's just a major disappointment for the team, and I'm majorly disappointed that I didn't just enough for the conditions on the slick tires. It's hard to know, you know, you can never tell how slow is slow enough in those conditions. The slick's on a wet surface, but you know, I thought I'd slow down enough, obviously not, and we're paying the price right now.
We went full course yellow, and Justin Bell in the number 60 car. That's the open cockpit machine. You don't want that during this heavy rainfall, David.
Getting a real baptism, young Justin Bell. It's the first time he's driven the big engine car. It's the first time he's driven the turbo car. It's the first time he's driven on this racetrack. So his dad said, Justin, it's raining out. Get some good practice.
And then the green flag came out about 30 minutes later, and the racing then continued. On the restart, Scott Pruitt in the Jaguar was the leader. However, the Nissans teamed up and set sail for him with Derek Daly in one of the cars and Steve Millen in the other. They tried to chase down Scott Pruitt, who was back in the cockpit in competition for the first time in over a year. Remember, he was injured in a IndyCar testing crash last March and hasn't driven since then. But look at the Nissans close in there on the Jaguar.
You can see that the Nissan has considerably more horsepower, and Scott Pruitt did do a tremendous job in really his first drive from a long layoff. And of course, as you can see, the conditions were not exactly perfect.
Making it 3 abreast through the tri-oval, the Nissan went into the lead with Scott Pruitt falling back into second position. Then another incident on the racetrack. A spring broke on the Mandeville car that was driven by Amos Johnson, and he had considerable damage there on the left rear of the car, brought it into the pits, and they spent considerable amount of time in there. However, the car is now back on the racetrack, and the Mandeville car, Amos Johnson, back in competition. Well, let's see what everybody else is doing here at Daytona International Speedway on the broadcast tour. Let's go down to the pit area, first of all, to Marty Reed.
Well, thanks, Bob. It's a little soggy down here. Mario Andretti was ready to get in for son Michael, but Michael's going to do double shifts. Why?
Well, when it's raining, it's cooler. You're obviously going to try to take advantage of that, and he'll do 2 shifts. I'm hoping that Jeff and I will do the same, so you get a longer rest period, but that's fair enough. I think we're out there to try to catch up. Obviously, we have to go really hard. And once he was in a swing of things, he thought he'd stay with it for another hour, and then I'll go. And, you know, so far the car is really, after we got the first problem fixed, now the car is really working beautifully. We only have about 15 laps to go here to catch up to the leader, but the race is young.
You lost 37 minutes in that sequence, but the big thing that you were telling me about was that you were hoping now that it might dry out. You thought rain would be to your advantage, but now you'd like to see some attrition up front.
Well, the rain is always a lot easier on the cars, and you can't run as hard because of the fact that it's slippery, and then the engines run a lot cooler, so the cars have a tendency to last longer in the rain, and now we're looking for cars to break down.
Well, go get some rest. Thanks for talking to us, Bob.
All right, thank you very much, Marty. Mario Andretti in the Dower Porsche running in 14th position overall right now. The leader of the race, once again, is a Nissan, number 84, driven by Julian Bailey. Well, Dave Despain has found some shelter down in the pit area. Let's go to him with some special guests down in the pit area. Dave?
We've got a race off the racetrack here. These guys are going to see who can talk the fastest here. I think my guests need no introduction. This, of course, is Pete Halsmer. He is a former GTO class champion, former winner of the race. Guy on the left, stock car racer, obviously lost, trying to get to the Daytona 500, blundered in here and thought, hey, I'll drive this thing. Mark Martin representing the Jack Roush team, and that is really the battle that we're talking about in GTO tonight. It is the factory Mazda effort that a lot of people think may be the favorite. I want to find out more about that from both of these guys, against the Jack Roush team with 6 consecutive victories in the class in this race. It's a phenomenal record. I'm not sure where to start, but I think I'm going to start with Mark. My opening comment tonight was going to be about the rain and the fact that you should not feel sorry for the drivers. You should feel sorry for the reporters, the safety workers, the corner people, everybody here. You should not feel sorry for the drivers because they get to go out and have fun. And he kind of smirked at me, and Martin lit right up. Mark Martin, I've talked enough. Is it fun?
It's a blast, I tell you. I was so scared of driving in the rain. I'd never done it until yesterday afternoon. And finally I said, guys, it may not be dry here tomorrow night. Maybe I should just take a few laps of practice. And I really hated it. I felt like I did terrible, and I slid all over the racetrack and was miserable. I got right in tonight around 5 o'clock and just had a blast. I tell you what, it's I believe it's more fun to run, you know, in the rain than it is when it's dry.
Skidding them around, short tracking, it's what you did all the way coming up through. This has got to be just like it, right?
It's a lot of fun.
Pete, you kind of frowned. You weren't not having as much fun in the rain?
I'm sure his guys would love to hear the fact that he loves this rain, because they're going to put him in every time it starts to sprinkle.
Let me talk about the rivalry, and I'll start with you, because you were the champion driving the Roush cars. You made the move to the Mazda. Now you've even reunited with your crew.
Well, I think we're gaining, you know, I think we've made some improvements. The guys have done a tremendous job. We've got an excellent car. I think the team has improved in a lot of the areas that exist in a team, and naturally it's a major team effort when you come to an event like this, and I think the cars are very competitive now. You know, anything can happen, and already something has happened to one of our cars, and it's been withdrawn, the car that I would have gotten into. But the number 63 car is out there running and running well, and I'm glad the other guys are having a lot of fun in the rain.
So you're confident?
I feel good, but like any racer knows, anything can happen. You have to go out and you have to concentrate on the job at hand and get the job done the best you know how, and we've got good people doing all of the different areas that are important, I think, as far as the team goes, and I'm behind them 100%, whatever happens. If we don't beat them today, we'll beat them tomorrow.
Your team is leading first and second place at this point, but your mind has got to be, to some extent, on the Daytona 500. Tell me about that race and the outlook for 1991 for you and Jack Roush in that division.
Well, we're real excited about the Daytona 500. Steve Neal and all the guys back in the Carolina shop have prepared two great race cars, the best race cars I've ever laid eyes on. Come down here and wage war for this thing. We want it bad. We're fired up, you know, about 1991 and having Folgers and Valvoline back on board with us. We're excited about that. As far as the 24 hours goes, there's a long way to go in this thing. We've got to do it before we can do the Daytona. So, you know, we're looking forward to, you know, the fastest car here doesn't always win. You have to, you know, manage your program really well and not spend much time sitting still in the pits.
Look out, Dale Earnhardt. This guy's still around, and he's out there in the wet practicing for the 500. I'm not sure we've resolved the question of whether or not it's fun to race in the rain, but we appreciate you both coming by to express an opinion. Good luck in that GTO battle. We'll have to be back with more guests a little later on here. That's it from down trackside for right now.
All right, thank you, Dave. The two top teams in GTO at the moment here at the SunBank 24. It's a wet and a very dark Daytona International Speedway in the SunBank 24, being brought to you by Jaguar, a blending of art and machine. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when. We'll be back with more live from Daytona International in the SunBank 24 in a moment. I'm Bob Jenkins along with David Hobbs, and we are back live at Daytona International Speedway for the SunBank 24, being led right now by the Nissan, driven by Julian Bailey. Now, as far as race summary is concerned, we started the race at 3:30 this afternoon, and Julian Bailey at the moment is leading. We've had one full course caution for a total of 7 laps as the leader now comes into the pits. 17 lead changes among 7 cars. 2 cars are currently on the lead lap at an average speed of 104.5. They weren't ready for this pit stop. Let's go for a report, and Marty Reed.
This is a total surprise to the team. In fact, we were just chatting with some of the guys along the side wall, and I mean, they got caught short-handed. Now, the one advantage they have, because of the slow refueling process of the Le Mans cycle, they can take up to 1:40 to do all this. Now, you can see Steve Millen is still putting on his gloves. He's not ready to get into the car yet, but again, that's the one advantage. Now, Chip Robinson will be climbing out of the rig, and we ought to explain on the Le Mans rules, these Group C cars can only use 2,600 liters of fuel, and they pump it in at 1 liter per second. And it means to get 100 liters in there, it takes about 100 seconds, about 1.5 minutes. And this is one of the downsides of running this 3.5 liter car. And one of the reasons also, they have to go in and start all over as far as the fueling process about every 45 minutes. Let me see if I can jump in front of the camera here and find out. Did he surprise you with this stuff? Was there anything specifically wrong?
I don't know.
Well, you can see just how quick and harried everything is. They are not ready for this, and they have no idea what's wrong. Let me see if I can get a hold of Julian. Well, Julian obviously wants to talk to the team first, so the wonders of live racing. But you can see, take a look up here over my shoulder, Gordy, and see. I mean, they are basically wondering what the heck's going on, too. Julian, this surprised everybody. What happened?
Well, the car's got a really bad vibration, and I came on the radio to let them know, but for some reason they couldn't hear me. So I put up with it for a couple of laps, and if the car's really vibrating, could be a tyre. So I thought it's best to come in case the tyre blows, and then we ruin the race. So that's what I've done.
Now, don't feel bad. We were talking with some of the other teams. There's about 3 or 4 teams that are reporting radio problems, and it looks like the old flashing light routine may be coming back.
Well, we got, I don't know if it's a tyre or what, but we got a problem.
All right, well, there you hear it. They've got a vibration. Bob?
All right, David, he mentioned the possibility of it being a tire causing the vibration, but it could be a number of things.
Well, the simple thing you go for is the tires, yeah, but it could be drive shafts, it could be the inside of the gearbox, and of course on these highly aerodynamic cars, it can very often be a bodywork panel that's lost its stress member underneath, and it can cause the most unbelievable vibration. It takes an awful lot of finding, too, because you're just not looking for that. You're looking for a rotating part.
So you put some new tires on, you go out there, and you hope it clears up.
And if it's still vibrating, then obviously you have to start looking further, yeah, but as I say, panting bodywork panels, it's quite amazing the sort of vibration they can give. Julian Bailey, of course, we might add, leading the race, or was leading the race for this pit stop, and of course that was after that long spin that he had on the opening lap of the race. So it just shows how the fortunes can change in these long, long races.
They certainly have been fast on the racetrack under what would be normally green conditions, but again, it's raining very hard here, and so everything is kind of equalized. Now, the Jaguar goes into the lead right now, and we will visit with Tony Dow, the managing director of Tom Walkinshaw Racing, the Jaguars, when we come back to Daytona International Speedway in the SunBank 24. Speed World tonight at the SunBank 24 Hours of Daytona at Daytona International Speedway in Florida, where we have very bad weather conditions. Rain has been plaguing this event all day long, and it plagued qualifying and practice the last 2 days here at Daytona. So hopefully the weather is going to clear up and we can have some fast racing conditions by tomorrow. Of course, this race started at 3:30 this afternoon, will end at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. Well, each year one individual is recognized for his contribution to endurance racing, and certainly the man who has apparently contributed most to that in the past year has been Tony Dow. Ron Hall, Lieutenant Colonel Ron Hall, presents the Air Force Reserve Performance Award to Tony Dow here at Daytona International Speedway earlier this week, and we were there.
Thank you. It's exciting to be back at International Speedway to present another Air Force Reserve Commander's Performance Award. With me and to receive the award is Mr. Tony Dow. Mr. Tony Dow is the team manager of the Jaguar racing team. Last year they had success in winning the Le Mans and the 24 Hours at Daytona. This dedication, professionalism, and most of all teamwork exemplifies this award in the Air Force Reserve. Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you very much. It's obviously an honor, and it's not just for me. It really is a team effort, and while my name may be on the trophy, it is going to be in the workshop for the whole team. I'd like to say that the job that the troops are doing overseas and everything that's going on over there is the same teamwork, and we're very proud of what you're all doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that was earlier. Now here is a live shot of Tony overseeing the operations in the Jaguar pits. His driver, Formula One pilot Derek Warwick, is leading this race at the moment in the number 2 Bud Light sponsored machine. However, we expect it to be into the pit area in just a couple of laps. Well, about 10 days ago, I had a chance to go up to the small town in northwestern Indiana where this operation is headquartered. Valparaiso, Indiana. Orville Redenbacher used to live near here. His popcorn farms are still here. A major university is located in this town, about an hour drive from O'Hare Airport in Chicago. When Tom Walkinshaw Racing opened its shops here in the U.S., it chose this community for a number of reasons. This is where they put the cars together that compete here in the Daytona 24. Tony Dow is the managing director of Tom Walkinshaw Racing, the Jaguars.
We looked at all the things that would satisfy our requirements, being near a major international airport, being based somewhere in the middle of America. We just went through all of those things. We wanted to be in a town that there wasn't any other race team, because then you build up a loyalty amongst the people that work for you.
What can you do here in terms of getting the race car ready?
Well, pretty much everything. We make all our own suspension components. We do the vast majority of the bodywork. We're one of the few race teams with its own in-house CAD/CAM design facility. We make our own brake calipers. We do our own drive shafts. We've just installed our own in-house gearbox facility, because that's going to be one of the areas that in the future will take a big part in increasing the performance of the car on the track. The thing that I want is that this is a very, very good team, and I've got some very loyal people working here, and they haven't always had the success in a normal season that they deserve. You know, the 24-hour races, the balance swings around to organisation in preparation, and that works for us.
Very impressive facility there in Valparaiso, Indiana, the home of the Jaguars, which right now lead the 24-hour race here at Daytona. Derek Warwick in the car right now. Scott Pruitt is another driver in this car, and we will be back with a conversation with him in just a moment. Stay tuned for more live coverage of the SunBank 24 from Daytona International Speedway. We're away. The Jaguar did indeed come in for a very quick pit stop, and he is back out there on the racetrack, and Derek Warwick stayed in the car.
Well, of course, they're going for the longest stints here. They've got a lot of drivers in that car, and of course, if they all take 2 stints each, it means that the people who are out get a really good chance to get some proper rest.
Does it really give you an opportunity to take a breather when you come in for a pit stop as short as that one was?
Well, it's pretty much of a breather. That's about all it is, a breather. But, you know, a couple of stints is probably all right. But these modern cars with terrific downforce and a lot of developing a lot of G-forces, it's very difficult to go more than a couple of stints these days.
But on the other hand, under the conditions that we're driving in tonight with the spray and the fog and the rain, it's got to be very, very tiring.
Well, physically, of course, the strain's down because of the effort's down. But, of course, mentally, it's very, very tiring. It's very, very tough on the eyes and very tough on the old brain box, because you've really got to concentrate like heck the whole time.
And down in the pit area in our pit central, in the dry, Dave Despain with more guests. Dave?
Yeah, we're down here. I'm having a great time because I get to watch the driver reactions to what the experts are saying up in the booth. And David's talking about how it's very, very difficult to do more than a couple of shifts in Pruitt's, but that's a piece of cake. So here they are. Let's put them on the spot. We have not only colleagues, but race drivers. You've seen them both and heard them both on ESPN, as well as seen them in their race cars. Greg Pruitt, Scott Pruitt, of course, back in his car. Sorry about that. And we're happy about that. And down on the end, Derek Daly, who pursues Indy cars and has a lot of experience in the Nissan, and the Nissan is, of course, leading right now. But I think the first question has to go to Scott, and that is, how does it feel to be back at the wheel?
Great. I mean, it's wonderful. It's, you know, all the hard work, all the frustration, all the pain. It's finally all coming together. You know, when you're going through that whole process of coming back and working day after day after day, you really don't understand. I mean, you know what you want, but you don't know how bad you want it and what it feels like to be back. And now that I am back, it's great. It's wonderful.
Did you ever doubt that it would happen? Was there ever a time when you gave up hope at all?
No, there wasn't. You know, I just kept working at it, and, you know, everybody had been real good. Everybody at True Sports and Budweiser were real supportive and real good, and even the therapists right on down the line. I mean, everybody was, you know, they knew I wanted back and were able to be supportive as they could be and help me, you know, push along real hard as well. So with those things, as well as friends and family around me, there was never a question.
Well, we're going to miss you in the broadcast booth because you're out there wanting to drive those race cars around all the time. You've been through that same experience, Derek. You've had the injury, and you've come come back from it. It's not something that anybody wants to go through. Are you able to just completely put it behind you and not worry about the possibility that it might happen again, or does it enter your mind once in a while?
The interesting thing I found was when I went back to Michigan for the first time, which where I had my accident, how was I going to feel? But luckily, the car was very good that day. And I think the car really is what gives you confidence, and the people that surround you help build your confidence, because your confidence takes a hell of a lick when you're lying in that hospital bed, you know, and it's a slow build-up process. You know, you never ever forget it and put it behind you. You're just aware, and it's a learning experience, and you become better for it, I think.
He's right. It's exactly what happens. And one thing that I had also learned is now, looking ahead, I'm not as scared as having a crash because I know which the body can go through and that you can come back from. But there's still, I mean, you do everything you can on your side to make sure you're as strong as you can physically and, you know, cardiovascularly and even with all the joints and pieces. But the one question that you have before you get back in the car is, you know, is there going to be something that holds me back? Am I going to have the flashbacks? Am I going to have, you know, problems? And when I first got back here in the Jaguar car, there was some flashbacks. I mean, there was some, you know, since my whole wreck was so vivid, there was still some flashbacks of losing brakes and, boy, where am I going to go? And slowly, after time, that went away.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing for you, perhaps, is that you do remember it. A lot of guys don't remember the one in which they get hurt. Let's talk about this race. I mean, let's talk about a more pleasant subject. We've got a great race out there in the rain. Your guys' cars knocking each other apart out there trying to win this thing. And it's supposed to be a 24-hour enduro. The first hour, we saw cars together. We saw the spin for the Nissan. Has endurance racing really changed that much? Is it now a sprint race? Are you guys going to be like the Daytona 500 banging fenders here before long?
Well, it's not. You know, the thing that the 24-hour has changed is teams like Jaguar and Nissan have come on and they put together such great cars. You know, they're just very, very tough, and they go hour after hour after hour after hour, and that's just increased the level year after year after year of competition. Now, if you look, there's 4 very talented drivers in our car as well as a number of cars, and you're only looking at doing 1 hour to maybe 2-hour stints because you have to push so hard every time because the cars just don't break. I mean, you have to be careful not to run into people, and hopefully you're not going to have that problem. I mean, you're being extra careful right now because the real race doesn't start till tomorrow sometime. I mean, now it's just a matter of getting there and being in good strategic position to win the race.
Do I recall that you actually passed him for the lead? Do you guys know who was?
I didn't know who was in the car at the time, but I did pass the Jaguar.
Your car spun early in the race and had to come all the way back through.
That was the 84 car.
84
car. I was in the 83.
The 84 car proved, perhaps, the theory that Nissan apparently came to this race with, that you can run enough faster to make up for the pit time that you have to spend. I, for one, was very skeptical about that, but they caught up.
We're not sure in dry conditions that we can quite run to the pace that we want to. The wet weather conditions suit us at the moment because we're able to conserve some of the fuel, because if it was a dry race completely, we definitely have a major problem with the fuel, trying to make up that deficit.
Brabham told me just before he got in the car for his stint he's in now that was definitely the case. The rain was a tremendous advantage. He looked up and smiled and said, let it keep raining. And yet, in the Jaguar pits, they told me the same thing. They said, we love the rain.
Yeah,
this is great.
It's not a problem for us either. Now, obviously, people have to remember that the Nissan is running to Group C rules, and we're running to IMSA rules. So they have more horsepower, and obviously you can see that on the track. The thing that they don't have are...
Which explains why.
Yeah, right.
That was your driver balance, how I passed him. Nothing to do with horsepower.
But so they have a situation where it takes them about, what, a minute and a half for a pit stop for
90
fuel?
seconds, 100 seconds.
Sure.
I mean, we're finished, and we have to just sit there. Everybody's finished their work, but the fuel flow is so slow because of European regulations. I mean, it's very frustrating. If you lead the race and you'll have to sit in the pits.
Is it safe to assume that at this juncture, each of you would pick your own team to win?
Sure, without a doubt.
You afraid of the Porsches at all?
I don't think that, you know, there's a lot of good Porsche cars here, but you have to look now at the whole team, I mean, and the preparation that goes in before it gets here. I mean, everybody on the Bud Light Jaguar team has worked very, very hard. I mean, body works, fit between cars, noses, tails, different pieces, the whole situation. And I'm sure it's the same thing with the Nissan team. The pit stops, we've had to work very, very hard to have pit stops at about 30 seconds.
So we can
hopefully make up some time against the Nissans.
We wish you both luck. We thank you for coming, Derek Daly and Scott Pruitt, and we'll be back with more from Daytona right after this.
Back at Daytona International Speedway in the SunBank 24. As the nighttime has fallen upon us, the race now 5 hours old, and we have covered a total of 530 miles in those first 5 hours. And again, the standings, Derek Warwick in the Jaguar leading. The Nissans are back on the lead lap, despite the fact that they were in for pit stops not too long ago. Jeff Brabham is in the 83 car and Steve Millen in the 84. Paulo Barilla in one of the Porsches and John Paul Jr. in one of the other Porsches, running in 4th and in 5th position. Now taking a look at the standings in the Camel Lights division, it's Doug Peterson in that 48 car, the Acura Spice leading. Charles Morgan in number 9 is second. Then Peter Greenfield, Mike Dow, and Rob Robertson complete the top 5. Looking at the GTO standings, it's Wally Dallenbach and Max Jones showing the way in the Jack Roush cars. The Mazda Price Cobb running 3rd, then Tommy Grunna in car number 90 and Don Knowles in 92. And in the GTU division, it's Peter Urea in 82. David Loring is running in 2nd, followed by Miguel Morajan, Brad Hoyt, and Jay Kohler. Back with more live coverage from Daytona right after these messages. ESPN Speed World coverage of the SunBank 24 Hours of Daytona, being led at the moment by the number 2 Bud Light Jaguar, being driven by Derek Warwick. A lot of spray still from the cars as rain continues to fall here at Daytona. Well, we've talked throughout the first hour of our show from 3 to 4 today, and we talked earlier in this hour about how experience is really important in winning this race. And certainly the guy sitting next to me, David Hobbs, is really very experienced on this racetrack, having driven here several times.
I've driven here more times than you've had hot dinners, but unfortunately I've yet to win here.
You were here in '62, the very first time they were in.
I drove in the inaugural race. I drove an E-Type, and I hit the banking, hit the wall on the banking there at turn 2. And, of course, that was the one that Dan Gurney won in the Arciero Brothers Lotus 19 by parking right here under the booth on the start-finish line, or just prior to it. And he waited for the checkered flag to fall and wound the car over on the starter motor, winning the race.
Speaking of experience, David got together with 3 of his cronies earlier in the weekend, some very experienced drivers here at Daytona, to talk about this race. And those 3 drivers were Hurley Haywood, also Brian Redmond, and Derek Bell. Here's a roundtable discussion
you
led
won
by
more
our
races
David
at
Hobbs.
Daytona even than Richard Petty, the king himself. How about winning again this week?
Yeah, I think I'm driving one of the Yost cars, and Yost probably has the best Porsche of anybody, and I've got good co-drivers, so the car is going well. I hope it'll last for 24 hours.
You two obviously have got probably the best winning record in racing for these real endurance races. Obviously Jackie Ickx and you shared so many wins at Le Mans. But who do you think is the real Iron Man of long distance racing? Do you think of an Iron Man out there? Derek?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, go on.
No, I'm very modest. No, I don't think so at all. I think, it depends which car you're in. If you're lucky to be in the right car, I think Hurley's in the right car this week, and I think he can go out and do a very good job in it. I would say that any one of us could do are Iron Men. Anybody that can win 24-hour races on and on must be very, very good at keeping that car in one piece, and it's all about mechanical sympathy, really. But at the same time, it's no good unless the people behind you are absolutely 100%. And I remember Jackie Ickx saying to me one day, he said, look, the mechanics are 100%, the preparation is 100%, the car is 100%, and we've got to be 100%. So we've got to get really fit for it. And we're really the icing on the cake, the drivers. When we're only a small part of it, it's the people out there that are doing the work grafting. They're the ones that are the Iron Men, really, not us.
There's a big difference between the 24-hour race at Daytona and Le Mans, apart from obviously the much higher speed circuit at Le Mans and here, is I found that the difference in daylight hours. At Le Mans is so much light, and here there's so much dark. I mean, do you find that a problem, Brian?
It's a tremendous difference. Yeah, tremendous. I mean, really, at Le Mans, you've only got about 6 hours of real darkness, and here you've got about 12, so it's a massive difference. And, of course, that's a big load on the electrical system of the car as well. They understand nothing.
Have a bigger field here, lots of different classes. Le Mans now is just basically the one class. It used to be everything. the GTOs, the GTUs, the lights, and do you find that a problem, the difference in closing speeds?
Oh, absolutely, yes. But of course, Le Mans has slowed down a lot now, as you know, with these two chicanes, which of course have made it safer, but a real pain on your right leg trying to slow it down so much. But certainly here is difficult with so much traffic, I must admit. It really is very, very hard on us. And you know, they've got their own job. You only got to talk to them, in all honesty. You go and talk to one of the GTO drivers or whatever. And I mean, their biggest job is trying to keep out of our way or keep us in perspective, because they can come out of a corner and they look behind them as they enter in the next one, and there's nothing behind them. As they come out, there's a GTP car right up behind them. Yeah, and we really upset them. And we think that, you know, we're the king of the road, but they're running their own race, and we have to respect that.
Do you find closing speeds difficult here at night? There's so many lights, especially the infield here, where it's backwards and forwards on itself. Do you find that a problem at all? Obviously not too much of a problem. You've won it 4 times. But.
Well, no, it is a problem because you have so much infield traffic, not the race cars, but the actual regular street cars.
Marshal people.
And you know, you've got lights coming at you that blind you for a minute, and it's difficult. Here you really they've put curbing up, and yes, last night I couldn't see a thing. I mean, they have no reflective strips or anything on the curbings. We've gone to IMSA to ask them to put the strips on, and my lights weren't aimed just right, so it was like driving without lights. So in case your lights do go out, I do know that I could still drive around and get around.
But remember, before Hurley, we had holes there instead, and they used to put up rocks across the road.
Well, I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of it.
We have tried for a few years to get those curbs.
You all raced in the good old days with the 917s at places like Spa on real city streets. How do you feel about that compared to the modern racing places like this?
It's safer. Yeah, you only got to look at the track record to see the safety is far, far greater now. On the way up the hill from Malmedy, we used to clip the front doorstep, the flagstone.
Yeah, that was the apex. That was the apex. What's the apex? Well, it's that cottage on the corner, and that's what it was. There was no barrier. That was the apex of a 150-mile-an-hour corner.
Someone's front step, and sometimes there'd be people sitting on the step, so reading the paper and watching the race in the television in the other room.
Milking the cows. You used to wave as you went whistling past.
Unbelievable, yeah.
As I said, there's 146 years of experience sitting here, but still, when the flag drops, do you still really want to get into that corner first, the first corner first? Do you want to beat the guy next to you?
Let's face it, as Brian has been quoted as saying many times, you've got to see the flag to win the race, and that's what it's all about, is the last lap, not the first. And people that want to try and win on the first lap or the first corner are very stupid in a 24-hour race, or any race, for that matter.
You should treat the first corner the way that a porcupine makes love.
Very carefully. Right now, lad.
And on that note...
Well, we might mention that Derek Bell is already out of the race, but Hurley Haywood and Brian Redmond remain in contention here in the SunBank 24, which continues with the Jaguar leading. Now, quick reminder, NFL football action tomorrow night, Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. It's the AFC and the NFC Pro Bowl live at 8 o'clock here on ESPN. We'll be back with more from Daytona.
ESPN's exclusive live coverage of the 24 Hours of Daytona continuing. Here's your top 5 in the GTP class. Derek Warwick leading the event at this juncture in the Jaguar. Brabham second in the Nissan. Steve Millen running third. Another Nissan. The Porsches are now 4th and 5th. And John Paul Jr.'s car owner and co-driver is with us right now. Rob Dyson, longtime supporter of IMSA Racing and of Porsche's efforts. And many say the owner of the best Porsche in America. You agree or not?
Well, so far we're right up where we should be. I think that at this stage in the race, we got about 20 hours of racing left to go, and there's a lot of mileage between now and then. A lot of corners to go through. Unfortunately, lots of puddles to go through. So I think at this point, I think we're right where we want to be.
Lots of talk in that time, too, of Nissan and Jaguar. They're the teams that everybody has spoken about coming in here. And the book on the Jaguar is, well, the technology is just out of date. Those cars can't keep up anymore. But that car, for 24 hours on a big racetrack with fast corners, is a pretty good race car.
It is, and the team is, they've raced it a lot. That's one advantage that they've got. They know just where the car is good and where it's bad. They've got a lot of miles on that V12, a normally aspirated chassis. It's a little bit harder to drive, but they've got drivers that are up to it. They've got very excellent drivers. They should do a good job, but we intend to not hang back by any means, but we intend to preserve our automobile because there's so much racing here for such a long period of time, and the conditions being the way they are, changing from pouring rain to being just misting rain, just adds a quotient to the whole drivability of the automobile that it really throws a lot of any strategy or any real racing in a cocked hat.
I want to ask you about that. How do you win a 24-hour race? We know how you win a stock car race or an Indy car race. You drive the wheels off of it, you stay in front, you win the thing. How do you win this thing?
Mostly you don't lose it. That's the best thing. You want to make sure that all your passes, you give everybody enough room to get around them. Primarily, just keep yourself from putting the car or the wheels of the car off the track. You want to make sure you're easy on an automobile, not busting the gearbox or over-revving the engine, wearing the brakes out. Premature brake stops can cost you a lap or two. And so you more lose this race than you win it. It's a hard race strategically to figure out how you're going to win it.
Yeah, that was my question, I think. Do you run to the clock? Do you set a pace and say, we need to run 141, 142, whatever the number is, lap after lap after lap, forget what everybody else does, and that'll win us the race?
Right. You try to run at a pace that all the drivers feel comfortable running, and that you get your best mileage and your best tire wear and your best brake wear. That's the key. You set your own pace, and you kind of run your own race, although I will admit that it's kind of fun if you can pick up a position here or there. But the big thing is to make sure that you run your own race.
Bring those Porsches home to their, 18th victory in the 24 hours. Thanks for coming by. That is Rob Dyson, and this is the 24 Hours of Daytona, and we'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
Live and exclusive here on ESPN, the SunBank 24 IMSA race. 24 hours of grueling competition in the night and in the rain. Let's take a look now at the GTO standings as we have completed over 5 hours of this event. Wally Dallenbach and Max Jones continue to show the way in the Jack Roush cars. Bryce Cobb is running third, then Tommy Grunna and Don Knowles. Now, a guy who has taken up residence here at Daytona, not only for this weekend, but for weekends to come, Jack Roush. He's with our Marty Reed.
Well, Jack Roush, in the master of understatement, says, yeah, we like our position. You ought to. You're running first and second. You're dictating the pace, and we may have to move here real quickly because your lead car may be coming in.
Yeah, our Whistler Valvoline Mustangs are really doing good. Dorsey, Robbie, Mark Martin, and the fellas are having a great night. The rain has really put everything up in the air. We're making our decision now about tires. We really need something that's in between a slick tire and a grooved rain tire. So we're grooving tires in the back and measuring fuel economy, doing the rest of it. But everything's going our way so far.
Is that because the banking takes away the rain tire once it dries out, just scrubs them right off?
Well, the first thing that starts to happen is you grease up the right front. It gets hot, and they're complaining of it pushing a little. And so after that, it'll start to get loose in the back. The back tires are chunked some from it if that happens. But, you know, it's still misting just a little, and it's going to get colder. And as it gets colder, the tires can stand to be a bit drier. So we're in a quandary, but it's the right kind of problem to have.
Well, Bob Jenkins, right now, the Roush Mustangs are dictating everything in GTO,
as they have for many years here at Daytona in this event. And David, there are 4 different classes of cars running in this race, and all are certainly have their own distinctions. Explain a little bit about P's, O's, U's, lights.
I was hoping you would ask me. I know the lights and the U's are the slow ones. A GTP car, obviously, is, as its name implies, a prototype car. They're made in very small numbers, and of course the rules and regulations are very wide-ranging. In IMSA GTP racing, the rules are done on a formula of engine size and weight of the car and so on, and they are absolute out-and-out racing cars. GTO cars, like the one we just see there, the Whistler car, they are silhouette cars, really. They're like a NASCAR car. They're a much heavier car. These are nearly 3,000 pounds, and they look pretty stock. But of course, underneath that plastic body, they are in fact pretty much a full-blooded race car. A GTU is just a smaller one of these. It's up to 3-litre car, up to 3-litre engine capacity. And of course, a Camel Light is a very small GT prototype with a smaller engine.
And the Jack Roush car there on pit road continues to get service. It shut off the lights when they came in. Mark Martin is getting in the car. Why turn off the lights?
Well, because it saves the battery. Now, today, as Brian Redmond said on that little round table, of course, the long night here is very hard on the electrics anyway. And, of course, rain really adds to it because the wiper, believe it or not, the wiper does use quite a bit of power. And these guys have got very, very strong lights. They're not just regular lights. They've all got 100-watt bulbs, and they've usually got at least 4 to 6 of them. So they do use up. And, of course, these guys have obviously used their battery up to a large extent and had to push start it, although obviously they hadn't used the battery up because the lights are running pretty brightly. But it's a big problem, is electrics, especially in the rain.
And you mentioned the windshield wipers. They have been having wiper problems on that car, and I can't imagine what problems that causes.
Well, a big problem.
Yeah.
Now, if it rains a real lot, if it's really heavy rain, of course, the wiper's not such a big deal. It's when it's just misting rain and when the windscreen itself gets misted up and oiled up that the wiper can be a real menace. And we've not yet succeeded in getting a decent system whereby you can get a proper washer and a proper wiper to work properly on a racing car. It just doesn't seem to work.
And, of course, when you go onto the banking and work up to high speed, the water blows off the windshield anyway, or theoretically.
The water does blow over the windshield, exactly. And, of course, a lot of people use special formula to make the water not stick to the windshield in the first place. But if you use that, the wipers don't work at all. So,
so the race continues here at Daytona. Jaguar is still leading this event, and we're nearing the 9 o'clock hour. We'll be back with a few closing comments right after these messages from Daytona. Live coverage of the SunBank 24 at Daytona being brought to you by Suzuki, everyday vehicles that aren't, and by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And here are the standings now, nearing the 9 o'clock hour Eastern Time. In the GTP division, Derek Warwick continues to lead, has about a 53-second lead on Jeff Brabham in one of the Nissans. The other Nissan is running third with Steve Millen behind the wheel right now. Segala is running fourth and John Paul Jr. fifth. Both of those are Porsche 962Cs. In the Camel Light division, Doug Peterson still in the lead in that number 48 car. Jim Pace is second, then Peter Greenfield, Mike Dow, and Rob Robertson. Going to the GTO division, the Roush cars of Dallenbach and Jones head the field. Bryce Cobb is third, Tommy Grunna is fourth, and Don Knowles running in fifth position. And now finally to the GTU standings at this hour. Peter Urea in number 82 is the leader. Don Reynolds is second. Miguel Morajan third. Mike Gagliardo is sixth, and Jay Kohler is running in fifth position. Well, David, looks like you and I get to go back to the hotel, take some nice food maybe, and have a snooze. Marty Reed is going to stay up all night and make sure that nobody misses anything when we resume our coverage tomorrow.
What a shame. I would like to add that fifth place in the GTO at the current is by that Corvette, the Morrison Corvette, which is a really very, very much a standard car. GTO to the absolute nth degree. That is a real GTO. It's not a trick race car at all. It started off life as a production car. They're doing obviously very, very well. I expect the wet weather's helping them a bit.
I believe that one of the team cars was out of the race real early, which kind of surprised us. It went behind the wall in just the first very few laps.
It did, but of course the other one is doing more than can be expected of it, I think, so far.
Well, when we see each other again about 3 o'clock tomorrow, who do you really think is going to be in the lead? Can the Nissans hang on, or the Jaguar, who's leading right now?
Well, of course, everybody said, oh, the Jaguar, when the one broke in practice, that they were down to 50% of their effort. But my point is that only one of them's going to win anyway, and it just might as well be that one. But I
still watch out for the pole-winning Porsche, Bob Wallach.
It's very rare that the pole-winning car wins one of these 24-hour races, but I wouldn't put that one out of our thoughts altogether.
Well, we'll see you at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon live here on ESPN for the conclusion of the SunBank 24. Since we talked with you last night has come to Daytona, but the skies were clear. Jaguar and Nissan were leading in the early part of the night. The number 83 car made numerous pit stops, but they were routine for driver changes and, of course, the 100 liters of fuel. Jaguar also had a routine early night. The drivers exchanged the chores, and at one point it appeared the battle between Jag and Nissan would continue all night long. The number 84 Nissan gave that team a double punch, while, of course, Jaguar was only running one car. The Andretti Porsche, in during the early part of the race with ignition trouble, began to work its way back up through the field, despite a penalty assessed on pit road. In the GTO division, the Jack Roush Mustangs continue to dominate that class, as they had since the drop of the green flag. Again, routine pit stops for the crew. And the number 6 car of Bob Wallach was also in contention, as our Marty Reed worked all night to keep us informed.
At 1 o'clock, the entire complexion of the race had changed. The Bud Light Jaguar had taken a 2-lap lead over the rest of the field. And the Acura, which had been leading the Camel Lights division by as much as 4 laps, ran over some debris and tore up the left rear quarter section. It handed the lead to the number 9 of Tom Hessert. In GTO, Dorsey Schrader got past teammate Robbie Gordon after he had to make several lengthy pit stops. And then in GTU, Privateer Dick Greer leading his team from Columbus, Ohio, to an 8-lap lead after the Leitzinger 240SX Nissan broke. That's how it stood 9.5 hours into the race.
Then about 2 o'clock this morning, things started to happen. The Jaguar came in with steam rolling from the car. The crew tried to assess the problem. They replaced a water pump. They replaced a radiator. Later, they replaced another water pump, but it was all to no avail. And at about the same time on pit road, one of the Nissans came in, also with an overheating problem. We talked with Marty Reed about that.
Graham Donaldson at the 10-hour mark. The Jaguar hands you the lead, but you can't hold it. They end up blowing a water pump. You had steam. What happened?
We had a small pinhole in the radiator somehow, and it's... We had a problem a little bit earlier, and we're putting water through, and we're losing it, but we couldn't find it. That time we took the nose off, we saw a pinhole, and we had to swap it. Now we're having trouble to get the water to stabilize between the 2-cylinder heads.
Still got half a race to go. Can you catch up?
We'll be there.
The only serious crash during the night was the Dower Racing Porsche driven by the Unser family. Robbie was behind the wheel when trouble struck.
What happened out there?
Well, just, I guess going on to number 1, I got in a little bit deep, and the lights, we've been having a problem with them going on and off, and it got black on me, and I didn't miss a corner. That's all.
Yeah, there were a lot of laps out there where we saw you with just one light, and that's next to impossible.
It goes on and it goes off, so. And it went out while I was going into the corner, and I didn't quite know where to go, so.
You going to be able to get it fixed, go back out?
So, it looks like if we can find some lights, it'll be okay.
But they were unable to get back into the race. And the Yost Porsche 962C of Bob Wallach, the car that was on the pole, also began to experience problems with overheating again. And in the Camel Lights division, it was the number 9 car driven by Jim Pace, Morgan and Hessert, also beginning to experience problems. This was an oil leak. And the number 82 GTU car was making its mark in that class. As we approached at 3:30 in the morning, the halfway mark, Marty summed it up for us.
After 3 lead changes in 3 hours, what ends up at the midway point is a 3-way battle between the 83 Nissan, the 16 of Rob Dyson, the 962 Porsche, and the 7 Porsche driven by Hurley Haywood and company out of the Yost camp. If it wasn't for 4 a.m. in the morning, I'd probably make some lousy pun like Dyson's dicing. No, it's time for some sleep.
And at the halfway point, here were the standings. Wallach remained on top in that number 6 Porsche 962C. In the Camel Lights division, it was the Morgan Hessert Pace number 9 showing the way. The Exxon Supreme GTO Series, Gordon, Martin, and Dallenbach, and their team car was running in 2nd position. The GTU class at the halfway mark, Greer, Bacon, Urea, and Meese leading in the number 32 car. And so the long night continued. The number 7, Yost Porsche, experiencing a problem. It cut a tire and had to come in for some work. That just about 6 o'clock this morning. And then, as dawn began to break, some major problems for one of the Nissans, the number 84 car, pitted. And the problem was diagnosed as being in the rear end. Work continued on it, and it was decided that they would call for a complete new transaxle. It was brought on, but the car eventually retired with a broken motor mount. Elsewhere on pit road this morning, a new transmission was called for in one of the Jack Roush cars. This, the number 12 machine that was running second in the GTO division most of the night. They called for a new transmission, and they installed it. The car is back on the track. Well, it's a bright, sunny day as you look live at Daytona International Speedway. We are seeing the sun for the first time since we've been here, and I'm welcoming you to this final hour of competition, actually the final half hour, and then a half hour of post-race show. I'm Bob Jenkins along with David Hobbs, and we have seen a lot of activity in the last 23 and a half hours. The Nissans are pretty much out of it, the Toyota pretty much out of it, and it looks like that a Porsche 962 may be the winner of this thing.
Well, I would say at the moment it looks pretty good. It's got a 20-lap lead, but they've got a trouble with their water system too. They have to keep injecting water under pressure into there, so even they could be in trouble.
Let's go down for a report on this problem with Dave Despain.
There is concern here about that water leak, but there are no steps being made to let it affect the strategy. There had been talk of parking this car and letting it sit right here.
In fact, 6 feet in front of the front fender of the car.
He's driving across it just now. The decision was made to go ahead and press on. Let's go down pit road to Marty Reed.
Well, the car running in second place in GTO, driven by Dorsey Schrader. Jack Roush's Mustang in for tire changes. Now, talk about methodical planning.
Guys, we got all the debris after 24 hours of
racing, and Jack Roush is planning on bringing both his cars in to make sure they've got good, fresh rubber.
So the number 15 car moves back out onto the racetrack, and we follow it around the course with an in-car camera. Robbie Gordon behind the wheel of that car. Let's review the standings now. John Winter in the number 7 car, the Porsche 962C from Yost Racing, is the leader. One of the Nissans, the number 83 car of Chip Robinson, is running second. James Adams in the Porsche 962 is third. Mario Andretti, they were on the lead early this morning, but had problems and have now dropped back to fourth. And Robbie Gordon in that GTO car is running fifth overall. Now checking the Exxon Supreme GTO standings, of course, Gordon would be the leader of that division with his teammate Dorsey Schrader in second. Jim Stevens in another Roush car is in third place. Andy Pilgrim in number 92 is fourth, and John Osteen in the Mazda is running fifth. They also had a problem on course but are back out on the track. The Camel Light standings, Parker Johnstone continues to lead that series in the Acura Spice. Peter Greenfield, the defending champion of that division, is running second. Hendrik Tenkati is third, Todd Brayton fourth, and Stephen Hines is running fifth. And in the Exxon Supreme GTU standings, it's Peter Urea in number 82 with about a 27-lap advantage on the 37 car. Kelly Marsh is running third, Alex Job fourth, and Brad Hoyt is running in fifth position. David, this thing has moved around pretty much as planned, I guess. We had no major problems as far as crashes are concerned, despite the rain in the early part of the evening, and now we settle down for the final few minutes, and the tried and true Porsche back up on top.
Well, I have to say that I was very impressed with everybody's driving yesterday afternoon and evening, and of course well into the night, because it was extremely bad conditions here. The spray was quite incredible at times, and how these guys managed to circumvent this traffic without any accidents at all, really worth talking about. It was a great credit to all the drivers here. My closing comments last night, I did say, of course, I thought that Bob Wallach might be leading this race when we came back in the morning. Of course, I actually really meant Henry Pescarolo and Hurley Haywood, which is in the sister car. Again, Porsche looking so good in these long endurance races for which they are so well suited. They really do run well in these races.
By the way, Bob Wallach has been running that number 7 car. He was quoted saying, oh, the younger guys need some help, so I've decided to get into the car.
And this, of course, will put Hurley Haywood at the top of the endurance list. He'll have 9 major endurance victories to his credit. That is assuming he wins this race, but as time ticks away now, that becomes very, very probable, because even if they just stop and wait, they're not going to be unwound.
And there is Hurley Haywood, and he hopes that that car can go just a few more laps, about 20 minutes worth, and bring home another victory here at the SunBank 24 at Daytona, being brought to you by Jaguar, a blending of art and machine. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when. We'll be back with more live action from Daytona right after this.
We're back live at Daytona with a man who stands at the verge of history. This is Hurley Haywood. He's raced 40,000 miles here at Daytona. He's about to win his 5th 24-hour if everything holds together. Nobody's ever done that before. How does it feel?
It's gonna feel great. I've got every single body part that will cross itself is crossed right now. So this is the worst time. I mean, these closing minutes. You know, I've been around racing for a long time, and anything can happen. So it's not over until the checkered flag falls.
All up and down this pit road, we've seen the favorites die. The Porsche has pressed on. Is the water leak a serious problem?
Well, it's a problem. It's not really serious. We have a very good handle on it. We have, you know, our computer system here that radios back exactly what the engine is doing, so we're able to very closely monitor it. And if the water temperature starts to get too high, we bring the car in and add oil or add water. So it's not really a big problem.
Keep those fingers crossed, okay?
Okay.
We may see him in just a few minutes in victory lane. Guys?
Hurley Haywood going for 11 victories here at Daytona, and if he does win it, he will surpass Richard Petty, who has 10 wins here at Daytona. Here is the Exxon Supreme GTU class leader. It's the number 82 car. Dick Greer, Al Bacon, Peter Urea, and Mike Meese, the pilots. And right now, Peter Urea is in that car. He's a heart pacemaker salesman. This is pretty much a privateer effort out of Columbus, Ohio, so you certainly got to take your hats off to these guys.
Well, if he's a heart pacemaker manufacturer, he'll probably be giving one shortly to Hurley Haywood down there in the pits to keep himself together as the race unfolds for all these guys. This, as Hurley says, this is the worst part of these 24-hour races. It's hard to envisage at home just what a long time 24 hours is when you're at a racetrack. And of course, when you're in a leading position and you're not driving the car, you know, so much depends on the guy who's in the car. And suddenly your confidence tends to vaporize, vanish to your co-driver.
This 82 car has a 27-lap lead on the second-place car in the GTU division. That would be the Espinoza, Wilson, Solano, and Morajan car. So it looks pretty good for Peter Urea in car number 82 as the winner of the Exxon Supreme GTU series. The leader overall is this car. John Winter is behind the wheel of the Yost Porsche 962C, car number 7. They are about 19 laps ahead of the second-place car, the Nissan, now being driven by Derek Daly. So also looks pretty good for this car coming home to victory lane in less than 15 minutes from now, and the winner of the SunBank 24 for 1991. There's Mark Martin, who is hoping his team can pull off the GTO victory here today. We'll be right back. Back live at Daytona International Speedway for the closing moments of the SunBank 24. You're looking live at Robbie Gordon in car number 15, currently the leader in the GTO division and running 4th overall. Now, he has in the last few laps overtaken the Andretti Porsche that is in the pits right now. It looks like the Roush cars are lining up for the finish. They have just had an absolutely outstanding race, as they have done for the past few years. And you can't say enough about Robbie Gordon. Here's a guy who came here last year for the first time. He won, comes back this year, is going to be apparently a repeat winner, as he is running now 4th overall. And this kid coming from the ranks of off-road racing is certainly a guy to watch in the future of auto racing.
Well, both he and, of course, Mark Martin really excelled last night in the rain. Mark Martin, when he saw the rain come here on Thursday, he thought, oh, my God, I've never driven in the rain before, and was really panicking about it. But really put on a great show yesterday afternoon. And, of course, Robbie Gordon, of course, has done a lot of off-road racing. The rain probably didn't faze him quite so much. But
he and Dorsey Schrader, one of his teammates, will do a lot of racing here in the next week, or actually 2 weeks, as they'll be competing in a lot of stock car races here, trying to get experience on the ovals. They'll be running in the ARCA, the Busch Grand National, and hopefully even the Winston Cup division. So Robbie Gordon has a lot of racing ahead of him right here at this facility. You can see the cars lining up. This is kind of a tradition in endurance racing.
It's a tradition at Daytona, too, to see a bit of drafting like that. Obviously practicing for next week's the week after that race. Won't be doing much drafting on the infield here. These cars lying 4th and 6th at the moment. And, of course, the amazing thing about both these cars, that they've been first and second in this division since the drop of the flag. I mean, the absolute kiss of death normally for a driver is to lead. Well, nearly didn't lead the class right there. Yeah, taking time out for fun this late in the race is pushing your luck a bit, but...
Well, there are only now an estimated 6 laps to go in this event, and the checkered flag will come out, ending this twice around the clock affair. And the 962C, driven by John Winter, continues to set the pace. He moves high on the banking and isn't running nearly as fast as he was in the early part of this day when the track finally dried. They're just trying to settle the car in and make sure that it finishes. How about a 962C in the specifications on the car?
Well, there you see it. It's the old Porsche engine. It's been revamped, of course. It's water-cooled now, 3-litre twin-turbo, gives about 700 horsepower. That's probably pretty conservative for qualifying. It probably gives about 750, and right now it's probably giving about 450. They've probably turned it down quite a bit. 5-speed gearbox, and of course the thing about these Porsches is the gearbox is a fully synchronized gearbox. It's just like driving your street car. I mean, you really can't mess up a gear shift, and all those sort of things are what make these Porsches such absolutely cast iron in these races.
Oh, and the Mazda apparently is on fire as the driver has climbed out of that car. I believe that to be John Osteen. That's the number 63 car. About 2 hours ago, that car went off course and parked over by a guardrail. They did some repair work to that and got it back on course. But now, as you can see, Osteen is out of the car, but smoke is pouring from it. And here in the closing moments of this race, the fire crew arrives on the scene to make sure that that situation doesn't get out of hand.
Well, it seems pretty out of hand to me at the moment. Brian Redman, our compatriot of many years racing, spent hours working on that car just a couple of hours ago and finally brought it back into the pits, and John Osteen got in. But obviously this is another problem that's reared its head, and the Mazda team haven't really had much luck in this 24-hour race. And going into the race on Thursday and Friday, everybody thought that these cars would really give those Roush Mustangs a tough run, because the two Mazdas here out-qualified the Mustangs quite easily. And the consensus is that during the year that it will be a battle royal between the Mustangs of Roush and these Mazdas. Lead driver, of course, being Pete Halsman.
Looks like John is okay. You remember what happened to the other Mazda, that crash during the driving rainstorm with Calvin Fish behind the wheel yesterday afternoon. Here is the second place car of Derek Daly. It is in second place, about 19 laps behind, and we'll compare the statistics we showed you on the 962C with the Nissan and the engine that they run.
Well, of course, the big difference between the Group C regulations in Europe and the IMSA is that the engines on Group C are really totally unrestricted. Like the Mercedes, which won the championship last year, had a 5.5-litre V8 twin turbo, which you wouldn't be allowed to run in IMSA. The big restriction comes with them on fuel. They're only allowed to carry 26 gallons on the car, and when they fill it, it's restricted to 1 litre a second, so pit stops are much longer. That, of course, is all changing for 1991, because Group C changed to a 3.5-litre normally aspirated engine, no turbos allowed.
So the Nissan, and by the way, the driver of that car is now Chip Robinson, running in second position. And since we're talking about Japanese cars, we can report to you that the Toyotas also dropped out of the race, both of them, one last night and one overnight. So the Japanese contingent apparently not faring all that well in the SunBank 24. Well, we're nearing the finish. It's less than 10 minutes away. Can the 962C of John Winter hold on? We'll be back right after this. Jenkins, David Hobbs, Dave Despain, and Marty Reed back live at Daytona International Speedway for the conclusion of the SunBank 24. The overall leader is John Winter in the Porsche 962C number 7. This car is leading the Camel Lights division, and this car has pretty much dominated this division, as many said it would. This is Parker Johnstone in the number 48 car. It's powered by an Acura, a Honda engine with a Spice chassis. They had some problems overnight. The suspension broke on the car, and you can see some black there on the engine cover. That's a complete new assembly because the suspension failure tore out that section of the car, but they're still up by about 25 laps.
Well, the 48 car exemplifies what a 24-hour race is all about. As we saw from our from our coverage over the night there, at halfway point, this car was running in 4th position in Camel Lights, was well out of the frame, but of course it and is the fastest car in that position, in that league, and has managed to pull itself up into a fairly substantial lead now. And of course, so the Japanese really are going away from this race, not with too much egg on their face. They're leading the GTU division with the Mazda. This Japanese engine here is leading the Camel Lights, and of course, I'm sure that Derek Daly and Chip Robinson are hoping they're going to come at least second in the overall frame of things.
We talked with one of the drivers of the 36 car, the defending champions of this race. They're running second, and they said they just simply can't catch this car. This car is a slowing car, almost to a stop, it would appear. Parker Johnstone is in trouble here with about 5 minutes to go in the race, but again, he has a 25-lap lead. Here come the Roush Mustangs as Parker will pull it off the racetrack.
But he's got us across the start-finish line.
Well, this is quite a development here, ending their race with less than 5 minutes to go, but it could very well win the division, parked right there on the race course.
I wonder if he's got a fuel pickup problem, because while we were just talking about him earlier on, as he came down past the pits, I noticed him swerving the car just a little bit, which is a fairly, normal sign that someone's trying to shake the fuel around in the tank to get it to work. It could be that they've got a pickup problem, dirt in the tank or whatever after 24 hours, and it may not be picking all its fuel up.
Here is the leader of the race, the Yost Porsche number 7, the team car to the one that sat on the pole, John Winter, behind the wheel right now. He got into the car about 2 o'clock this afternoon and said he would take it the rest of the way. So he has less than 5 minutes to go now.
And all those cars following him, of course, are desperately going to stay. You watch, they won't be overtaking now, because they're going to make sure they're in the picture as it crosses the line at the mentioned hour. They're going to be right there alongside the lead car.
We understand it's a battery problem that has sidelined the number 48 Camel Lights car of Parker Johnstone, the leader in that class. John Winter making his way through the racetrack pretty carefully into turn number 2 now on the banking.
Pretty carefully, I would say extremely carefully.
I would almost consider that tiptoeing.
Yeah, absolutely. At this stage, boy, I mean, every noise in the car, every little knock, every little noise you hear, it just brings your heart to your mouth. But, of course, they've got such a huge lead that at the moment, I mean, they're in very, very good shape.
Into the chicane here on the backstretch. This is where the Jaguar crashed on Thursday. That really took the Jaguar team by surprise, of course. It eliminated their chances by half of winning this race, and as we told you earlier, the number 2 Jaguar dropped out about 6 o'clock this morning. Look at this, the Roush cars all lined up for the finish now. The first two, 15 and 12, are Jack Roush owned cars. His number 90 is a car also that has been developed by Jack Roush with an American flag being shown by the Roush cars as they now come through the infield road course and onto the banking in what could be maybe one more lap around for them. So a lot of patriotism being shown from the Jack Roush Mustangs as they are going to finish first and second in GTO. Hey, you really got to take your hats off to the Andretti clan, because they had worked themselves up from about 37 minutes behind several laps. They came on to the lead lap this morning. Mario brought it in for a routine pit stop to turn the driving over to Jeff, and the clutch went out on the car. They spent many, many laps in the pits, and that has dropped them all the way down to 5th place.
They did do a heck of a job, actually, because those cars, both those Dower cars, came off the truck without having done any running at all before they got here. And so they did remarkably well to do as well as they did, actually. And poor old Robbie Hunter was a bit unlucky to, as he says, it went kind of black out there. And when he says kind of black, he sure as heck means it. Tell you, when the lights go out in the middle of the night, you can't see zip.
We are on the final lap of the race. John Winter takes the car up into the banking on turn number 2 for the final time. He'll drop onto the flat backstretch as the Nissan passes and makes up one of the laps. Chip Robinson now apparently about 18 laps behind, but it really doesn't make any difference as the Porsche 962C is going to win the SunBank 24 here at Daytona.
Well, I guess he wants to be in the picture frame while the checkered flag's being shown, but he wants his car to be just a hair in front of the Porsche.
The number 10 car is right behind the 7 car. The number 10 car, that's the Hotchkiss Porsche 962, is going to finish in 3rd position. So here they come through the banking at the 4th turn end of the racetrack for the final time. John Winter, along with his co-drivers, Hurley Haywood, Henri Piscarolo, Frank Jelinek come down through the tri-oval, and they receive the checkered flag. And there it is. The SunBank 24 is over, and Hurley Haywood has now made history by winning 5 24-hour races, endurance races, and he moves ahead everybody else in that category. There's the winning car.
I think that makes Hurley Haywood's winning record here at Daytona 11 races in all, because he won the Paul Revere 250 a number of times, and also the fall race that they used to have around Thanksgiving. So what a record that Hurley Haywood's got here at Daytona. Very convenient too, because it's his closest track to home, living just up at Jacksonville.
That's correct. And he was one of your guests on the roundtable discussion that we aired last night during the 8 to 9 hour. Now let's set up for the finish of the GTO division, and here they come in formation as they make their way through the chicane on the backstretch for the final time. Look at the American flags being held by the drivers. That is Robbie Gordon in the 15 car, and behind him Dorsey Schrader. This final hour of the race, by the way, was dedicated to the troops, the men and women serving in the Persian Gulf War. And so some very evident patriotism being shown by the Jack Roush cars as they come off the banking of turn number 4 and onto the tri-oval for the final time. These 3 cars finished first, second, and third in class. Robbie Gordon in the 15 car will win. Schrader will finish just behind him in second position. Then Jim Stevens in third place. Very impressive as the Roush cars take the checkered flag. And here is the GTU winner, Peter Urea, in the number 82 car. 27 laps ahead of the second place car in that division. A nice run for this group from Columbus, Ohio.
Any win's a nice run, I can tell you that. And a 24-hour win, it means more than most.
And the Camel Lights winner is parked somewhere off the race course with a dead battery, but nevertheless, Parker Johnstone and his co-drivers in the number 48 Acura Spice are declared the winners of the Camel Lights division. But the car of the day, the one that has won overall in the 24 hours at Daytona, the Yost Porsche driven by John Winter, will be back with more from Daytona. The first major international motorsports event of 1991 is over. The SunBank 24 of Daytona, and the winner, the Yost Porsche driven by John Winter. The Nissan, driven by Chip Robinson, car number 83, finishes in second position. Another Porsche 962, the Hotchkiss Porsche, driven by James Adams, finishes in third position. Robbie Gordon, the overall winner in GTO, finishes fourth overall, and Mario Andretti brings home the Dower Porsche in fifth position. Those are the standings overall. Now let's check the Camel Lights results. The winner in that category is going to be Parker Johnstone in car number 48, Peter Greenfield, number 36, Henry Tincotti third, Todd Brayton fourth, and Stephen Haynes in fifth position. We show the results of other divisions, and we will be back with post-race and victory lane celebration here at the 24 Hours of Daytona in just a moment. On the top of the scoreboard here at Daytona at the conclusion of the SunBank 24, the number 7 car, the Yost Porsche 962C, and it was a record-setting performance. It's the 18th time that a Porsche has visited victory lane in 23 starts at the SunBank 24. Let's go to victory lane. Here's Dave Despain.
Well, they have hosed down the car. They have kissed the car. They are celebrating here in victory lane, and no one has more to celebrate than Hurley Haywood. You can uncross all those fingers and toes. You are the undisputed king of endurance racing, and congratulations on your 5th 24-hour victory. How does it feel?
It feels great. I mean, the team did a great job. I mean, the car has been good. I was really lucky to have terrific co-drivers, and everything went according to plan. We had the pace was very tough. I mean, we really had to try hard, drive hard, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Tell me about problems. It's never easy to win one of these things. When was it in most doubt for you?
Well, we really didn't have any big problems. We had to change the spark plugs. We had to replace a battery. We had to worry with with the water cooling system. But those were things that we knew about, that we knew that we could fix, and we weren't too worried about it. It's the things that you don't expect is what you worry about. I mean, the last hour I was on pins and needles for the whole time, but everything came out good.
Congratulations to you. Bob Wallach deserves a call here. There were 2 Yost Porsches. One did not finish. This man had put that car on the pole. Some people called you washed up after last season. You've come back and certainly proved that that is not the case with your 4th Daytona win. How does it feel?
Well, it feels great. We had a plan, and the plan was to send the number 6 ahead to get the Nissan and the other Porsche teams to chase us and keep the Blaupunkt car in reserve a little bit back.
They made the old fellow like you the rabbit?
Absolutely. This is what they did, and because they asked me to do the rabbit in case the car wouldn't finish, they allowed me to come and help the other.
You've done very well. Congratulations. Let's go back topside to Bob.
And our congratulations to all of the Yost team. And by the way, the Yost team last won here at Daytona in 1980. And among the drivers, the owner of the team, Reinhold Yost, he was teamed then with Volker Merrill and the late Rolf Stommelen when they won in 1980. They have another victory here in the SunBank 24 as the number 7 Yost Porsche has driven 24 hours of endurance and made it all the way to the finish line. The GTO winners, the Jack Roush team, will be back with more right after this. The SunBank 24 Daytona being brought to you by Rolex. Timepiece of the 24 hours of Daytona where speed counts but endurance triumphs. By Jaguar, a blending of art and machine. And by Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. The overall winner, the number 7 Porsche in Victory Lane, but there's a major celebration going on in the GTO Victory Lane area. Let's go to Marty Reed for that.
We've got a first down here, guys. We've got whipped cream in celebration. Turn around, Robbie. This is Robbie, and that's courtesy of teammate Dorothy Strayer. Jeez. Oh, God. Okay, well, so much for decorum here. Let's go. Come here a second. Yeah, he deserves that. What happened to Mark Martin? The shortest guy in the crowd has been lost. He's bolted the other way. Come here. Hey, this is 2 years in a row. You think we ought to just give you this trophy each year and not run this?
Well, you know, it's not me. It's the whole crew. Jack Roush's team. You know, Jack and his crew build the best cars out there, and this Ford Mustang just ran flawless. You know, we changed the oil pump belt, and that was it for the whole day and night.
Mark Martin, I know that, you know, you have plenty of experience here from running the 500. Explain for our viewers the difference after running a 24-hour.
Well, the difference really is the car. You know, the team, the Roush team, they know how to win this race. And Robbie and Wally did a great job in the car. We ran fast, but we ran real easy on the car. And it was just a good combination. We had a great car and a great team behind us, and the guys did a great job driving it.
Wally, give us your thoughts. I mean, this was had to be a very sweet moment for you also.
Oh, it really is. It's good to be back with Ford. First 24-hour I won was an 85 with a Mustang, and I had a couple of good co-drivers, and we had a great race. Everything went like clockwork. We didn't have any problems. The team did a great job. And if somebody's going to come here and try to beat Ford and Roush, they got a lot of homework to do.
Well, I got to tell you guys, when you really think of this, winning the Daytona, 24 hours of Daytona is an accomplishment in itself, but these guys are praising Jack Roush. The crew, where is the crew? Because these guys finished 1, 2, and 3, and that is a heck of a job. Let's go over to Dave Despain with our Camel Lights winners.
And here is the moment that Hurley Haywood has been waiting for. Roland Pouton presenting the Rolex Trophy. This is the commemoration of his 5th victory here at Daytona, Porsche's 18th win, and that is the photograph that will play across all of America as Hurley Haywood becomes the all-time winner here at Daytona of endurance races. His 5th win and the Rolex Trophy, along with a Rolex wristwatch.
Hurley Haywood with 5 wins here at Daytona, 2 at Sebring and 2 at Le Mans, makes him the overall endurance champion. And of course, as we said, this was his 11th win at Daytona. Also, hats off to the Ford people who have won a 7th consecutive title in the GTO class. Those
those guys were, I would say, celebrating quite hard down there in Victory Lane in the GTO class, wouldn't you?
I would say they're celebrating extremely hard. Nice to see a bit of sophistication when it's
That's right. But they deserve it. I mean, 24 hours is a long time.
I'm glad I'm not staying in their hotel.
That's right. What did we learn here this weekend? You know, the 24-hour race is so different from any other on the IMSA circuit. Did we learn anything that we can apply to the shorter races that are coming up in 91?
Well, I think that Rob Dyson said it all in our show last night between 8 and 9 when he was being interviewed by Dave Despain. He said the thing to do with a 24-hour race is not to lose it. And I think that's what the combination of the drivers in that Yost car did, and of course the team. They just didn't lose the race. They never once rose to the bait of trying to overdrive themselves or their car. And the thing about a 24-hour race is you absolutely have to be around at the end. Now, the GTO cars, they're a bit different. I mean, those guys just drove flat out right from the drop of the flag. And Mark Martin says they drove fast, but they drove careful. But, I mean, yeah, careful's careful. I mean, when it's raining like it was for, what, 6 hours yesterday? Yeah. I mean, those guys did extremely well. And it's hard to pick any real winners from a 24-hour race. They are just such sort of aberrations of racing. It's kind of not like racing, and yet when you really get down to it and think about it, I don't remember ever having driven a stint in a 24-hour race where I wasn't actually driving quite hard. And I'm sure that these guys were the same. You do have to drive fast, but very, very carefully.
Now, the Jaguars and Nissan have a tendency to steal the headlines in a 24-hour race, but the Porsche comes through. Are you surprised that the Porsche came through in the final 24 hours?
Well, not really, because like I said last night, you know, I did say that I wouldn't put it past Bob Wallach to win this race. He did by getting into the second car, but there's no doubt about it that the Porsches do have a tremendous record in this sort of racing. The Nissan must be very happy with their second. It's the first time they've finished one of these 24-hour races. So they're looking pretty good. Jaguar would be disappointed, but then, of course, they went into it at a big disadvantage with only one car.
That's right. Well, it's all over. A Porsche 962C wins the SunBank 24 here at Daytona. A lot of celebrating going on down at Victory Lane. We still have lots more to bring you in the next 10 minutes as we conclude our coverage of the SunBank 24 here at Daytona. The Yost Porsche 962C number 7 wins overall. Here are the final results in the Camel Lights division. Parker Johnstone takes the Acura Spice to the victory in car 48. The defending champions of this race, Peter Greenfield and company, finished second. Third was Hendrik Tenkati. Fourth, Todd Brayton. And fifth was Stephen Hines. Let's go down for the lights celebration. And Dave.
I've already warned these guys I don't want anything sprayed on me, and they've agreed. Let us congratulate Steve Cameron, first of all, native New Zealander, making his very first start in a Camel Light car. I guess that makes you a true force in this division, huh?
Yeah, it's a nice way to start in these cars. I'd actually never seen Daytona before, and I'd heard all the stories about it, what a awesome place it was, and it lived up to its reputation. It's awful hard work. The car ran great, though, and I can't thank Acura and BF Goodrich enough for the opportunity to drive the car.
Congratulations to you. Doug Peterson had an unusual experience. Not many people in this race had the opportunity to rear-end Jeff Brabham's Le Mans Nissan. He did it. How did that come about, anyway?
Well, I was driving down the back straight about 3 o'clock in the morning, and a GTU car moved over, and in the middle of the track was a rear corner of Jeff Brabham's Nissan with 2 taillights sitting in the middle of the track, and I hit him head on, and it embedded itself in the nose of the car, and the crew has it in the trailer somewhere. We're going to try and go over and get Jeff to autograph it for us.
Nice souvenir of the Camel Light win, but not the only exciting moment. Bob Lesnett, that car tried to come all to pieces on you en route to this overwhelming victory. Tell me about that.
Well, it was a real scary moment out there. It just, I think we lost an upright, and then the tire blew up all in one lap, and it was at night, and it was one I'll never forget, that's for sure.
What happens when that happens? I mean, it literally took the side off the car.
Well, you just try and get it back, you know, back to the guys, and these guys did an incredible job. I mean, if you could see what they did in about 30 minutes, they rebuilt the whole half of the back corner of that car. It's amazing.
23 hours and 55 minutes before the checkered flag. Parker Johnstone started from the pole. They built this huge lead, and the car quit, and you didn't get to take the checkered flag. What happened?
Doug hit Jeff Brabham. I can't believe it.
You didn't know, huh?
No. Well, I tell you, it takes 2 ingredients, first of all, to get through this race, and that's a great crew and great equipment, and, of course, having consistent
good co-drivers, and unfortunately we had all three. B.F. Goodrich put great rubber under this car that got us through the race. The car was as consistent at the very end as it was in the beginning. Acura built one heck of a motor. I mean, this NSX engine was flawless, and we could have run just as hard at the end as we did for qualifying. And the chassis, the Comtech Racing, Doug Peterson, Don Erb, Chris Mellon, and all the guys who've been up till midnight 7 days in a row for the last 3 months. It's really paid off since Del Mar.
Honda has a reputation that when they get serious and go racing, they can build a winning car. Tell me the future for this car and for you.
Well, this is American Honda, not Japan Honda, but they're equally as serious. And Comtech Racing, which is the racing division of American Honda, is going to do everything we can to win the championship this year. And then we're looking for not better things, but bigger things. Hopefully there'll be a GTP car in the future, and we're looking forward to that. But today, 23 hours, 55 minutes. We've got a very sophisticated onboard monitoring system. The dash went blank. The car quit. I said, I don't believe it. 5 minutes. And I didn't feel strong enough to push it back around the banking. So it got us here. She started out a young lady, and now she's an experienced woman, and hopefully she'll get us through the rest of the year.
Congratulations on a great run. Marty's got the shaving cream cleaned off. Let's go back to him at the other end of victory lane.
I'm afraid not, Dave. Anybody tuning in just now probably thinks this is howdy doody time, but we've got the winners in GTU, and I've known this guy, Dick Greer, car owner of the number 82 Mazda, for over 10 years. This has got to be the highlight of your career.
Oh, it is, Marty. This is great. You live a long time, but, you hope things like this happen to you.
Your strategy has always been you just go out, you set the pace, and you let the race come to you.
Well, this year we figured we didn't want to get behind. We were going after it to start with, so we plucked off the lead pretty quick.
Let me talk to some of your partners in crime here. Of course, this is his wife, Anna, but Mike Mees, you've been driving with this guy a long time. As it was getting to the point where you knew you had this lead, I mean, it was like 8 laps at halfway point. What was going through your mind as far as what you were hearing in the car?
You hear everything in the world, you get very nervous, and you just know something's going to come apart.
Tell me about closing speeds now. I mean, we've talked about it
on the air, but especially last night during the rain.
You have the slowest class out there. The GTPs come blistering up on you.
If you pay attention to your mirrors, there's not a big problem. If you keep your line, they'll find their own way around you.
Spoken like a true winner. If I was out there, I would have been panic struck. Let me move down to Al Bacon. Al, any problems for this team at all during the day? I think, what, one alternator?
Lost an alternator, and I blew a tire just as I was coming into the pits. So really, it was a pretty picture-free weekend. And I think the preparation showed this weekend, because we really didn't have any glitches at all.
These guys are a lot more subdued than the Roush team. I mean, maybe because you were 30 laps out. Peter, you won this last year. You're a defending champion like Robbie Gordon. Give me a little more excitement. These guys are too mellow. 30-lap victories don't happen all the time.
Well, I tell you, we worked awfully hard, and this team has done an extremely good job. The Goodyear tires worked great. The Mazda engine was terrific, and Dick's team is something to be proud of. The car was just unbelievable. Al Bacon's people built this car, and it's a winning car, and we're very, very happy to be here. And I tell you, my heart is pounding. My wife and I just can't be any happier than being here.
Well, I'll tell you, as you take a look at this entire team, there's going to be one big celebration back in Columbus, Ohio.
Never believe it, Murray.
It's the 10th year in a row for a Mazda RX-7 to win in the GTU division. Tonight at 8 o'clock, we invite you to join us for the AFC-NFC Pro Bowl. That's at 8 o'clock tonight, live here on ESPN. And David, Dave, Marty, and I will return to Daytona International Speedway for some closing thoughts on the SunBank 24 after this. Back at the SunBank 24 Hours of Daytona, which has concluded here at Daytona International Speedway. The winner, the number 7 Porsche 962C from Yost Racing with, among others, Hurley Haywood, who has recorded his 5th 24-hour win here at Daytona. Some final statistics: 2,563 miles completed, average speed 106.6. The margin of victory for the team over the Nissan was 18 laps, 2 minutes, and 22 seconds, and they led about 284 of the final 294 laps. So indeed, it was a fairly dominant victory for that team. Let's go down to our pit guys for their final comments. Dave and Marty.
Pretty simple from this viewpoint. We watched that Porsche 962 debut back in 1984 at this racetrack, and we've heard for the last 2 or 3 years that it's outdated. Old technology can't keep up anymore. I have not seen the evidence of that yet. The high-tech has come, and the high-tech went very fast, and the high-tech failed, and the Porsche has won, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again next year, Marty. That'd make 19 for the Germans.
You know what's amazing to me is also that this is a race that a privateer can still win. Somebody like Dick Greer, who just plugs along, spending his own money. Here he is in victory lane with a 30-lap win. Also, I've come to the conclusion I am going to buy my own car. I'm going to hire Dorsey Schrader so that I can fire him.
Okay, thanks, guys, very much. You know, the team that I'm impressed with, as Parker Johnson said in victory lane, Honda doesn't do anything in racing unless they're serious, and I think they have proven here in their inaugural 24-hour race that Honda USA is serious about this Acura engine that was in the Spice that won the Camel Lights division.
Well, of course, the Honda Accord has been the best-selling car in the United States the last 2 years, and they're not going to let that position give up easily. They've got Nissan and Mazda put a lot of effort into their racing here in the United States. Honda decided to go international with their Formula One program, but I think once they get involved into IMSA racing or any other form of domestic racing, they're going to be one tough customer to beat. The other ingredient it takes to win a 24-hour race, you need good preparation, you need great co-drivers. Everybody's played a lot of reference to those, but the other thing you do need in a 24-hour race, you do need a large slice of luck. You really do.
You know, I'm sure 24-hour racing has changed since you were in it. They have now doctors, they have masseurs, they have nutritionists to make sure that their drivers are absolutely top-notch when they get in the car. Was it like that when you drove?
Well, a lot of people used to do that, and of course, obviously, more and more now people eat funny food before they drive. You know, they eat all these nuts and raisins and weird drinks and things like that, but the fact does remain you do have to be a little bit on the lucky side, and you have to be extremely careful. And Al Bacon said he had that flat tire coming into the pits in the Mazda. Well, of course, the difference between having a flat tire coming into the pits or having just gone out of the pits, especially somewhere like Le Mans where it's an 8-mile lap, I mean, that can absolutely kill or cure you just right there where you have the puncture, and that's really out of your hands.
Yeah, early this morning, of course, the number 7 car punctured a tire, and it did it just right here in the tri-oval, but yet it had so much of a lead that it was able to go around slowly and no major problem.
That's true. When you've got that much of a lead, it really doesn't matter quite so much. I'm not sure about David Spain saying that everybody else is high-tech except the Germans. I think you ought to go and look inside the Yost pit. It looks pretty high-tech in there to me. I've never seen so many graphs and computers and screens and God knows what else in there. It's a pretty high-tech team, and of course I drove for Yost last year in July in the Dijon race, and Jonathan Palmer and I came a miserable 8th, but at least we came 8th, and it's a good team to drive for. And they are really good fun. Reinhold Yost, the owner, and his wife are a good couple of people, too.
Want to follow up on the American story that we build all weekend, the Andrettis and the Unzers. The Unzers crashed out at midnight or in the middle of the night. Andretti went on to finish in 5th position. There have been a lot of major disappointments since the weekend began here. Of course, we had a lot of rain. The number 3 Jaguar was taken out in a crash during a practice session on Thursday, leaving that team with only 1 car to defend its title. When the green flag dropped, look at Ari Luyendyk take the Nissan, slice it through traffic to take the lead. In the night, the major disappointment for the only Jaguar car in the race, the number 2 machine, overheating. Then that cut tire that I spoke about. Mario Andretti, a very tired individual after they came back to take the lead. But it's all over now. The Yost Porsche 962C wins the SunBank 24. This is Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone.